And welcome to the Planning Commission meeting of Monday, October 14th, 2024. I now call the meeting to order. And if everyone would please stand, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance together, please. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everyone. Hannah, voice roll call, please.
Chair Arith.
Present.
Vice Chair Toller.
Here.
Commissioner Rojas is absent. Commissioner Zick.
Here.
Commissioner Andrade.
Here.
Commissioner Klepak.
Here.
Commissioner Martinez.
Here.
All right, thank you, Anna. This brings us to the election of an officer for liaison to the Housing and Public Service Grant. I'm going to open up the dais for nominations. Commissioners, do we have any nominations for that position?
I can nominate myself if no one else is
Okay.
willing and able.
Okay. And I will second that. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah, I brought this up to be agendized a few meetings ago, and I noticed that we had a vacancy on this committee, so I felt it's important for us to fill this vacancy. So,
Right, thank you. And I'll second that and appreciate you stepping up into that role. Commissioner Martinez, thank you. If there are no other comments, we'll go ahead and call the question.
Sorry, just one moment.
It's okay.
While we're waiting, I'll have some comments on the motion. I think David would be a perfect person for that. More than almost anybody I know, he does his homework and gets into the weeds, and this stuff is trickier than it seems, so I think he's a perfect person.
All right, thanks, Vice Chair. All right.
That motion carries 6-0.
All right, thank you, Anna, and congratulations, Commissioner Martinez. Thank you for stepping into the role. We appreciate it. All right, I see we have no announcements or presentations this evening, which brings us to public comments from the public. So these are for matters that are not listed on tonight's agenda. So if anyone in chambers wishes to speak, you're welcome to come to either podium. You'll have 3 minutes, and at the 1 minute mark, you'll hear the little chime, and then it'll just cut off. It's not me cutting you off personally. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Commission.
Good evening.
Jay Humphrey, Costa Mesa resident. Two things. I just reiterate e-bikes and the problems, and I know people are working on it. Let's keep working on it because it's becoming a significant problem. So just think on that. But the rest of my comments are a little bit of a campaign. As you all know, and you have known, I have hearing difficulty. And as such, the council, the city has made this chamber work fairly well for me for the relatively little things I have to do. I can hear from the mics and I can hear what people are saying and participate. And that's what this is all about, is participating. Unfortunately, there are 4 centers in this city uses as places for meetings for public input and public participation that are terrible. The room straight back here in the back, the public meeting room at the back, the public meeting room over by the restrooms, the Herzog Community Center, and the Senior Center. All 4 of those places have absolutely terrible sound processing for the hearing impaired. In fact, at 2 of those centers, I've had people who have no hearing impairment say they've stopped going to meetings there because they can't hear. And the reason is because of acoustics or because of lack of ability to connect into the sound systems or what have you. The sound systems tend to be antiquated, tend to use things that do not facilitate people with hearing difficulty to be able to just simply get into it. I have at my chest a device that talks directly to my ears I can plug that into any sound system that allows a plug-in. Well, guess what? The senior center, you can't do it. The community center is so complex, you have to unplug speakers to do it. You know, these rooms don't have that. My concern for the rest of the public who, let's face it, we're all getting there, have any hearing difficulties at all, that those places have not been addressed yet. So my goal is to get those addressed. I will continue on working with the city wherever possible to enhance the hearing capability for anybody in this community. It's a necessary process that we all need to have in the future for all of us, and good participation by the public assures better decisions by all of you guys who are making those decisions. So I leave that in your hands, and I figure it's an appropriate time to try and get this started. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Humphreys. And we certainly love the participation from the public. It does make for a better democracy, so thank you. We'll have staff look into that. Anyone else in chambers wish to speak on items that are not listed on tonight's agenda or anything in particular? All right, seeing none. Anna, do we have anyone on Zoom or telephone?
No, we do not, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and close public comments and move on to Planning Commissioner comments and suggestions, starting with Commissioner Zick.
Mr. Humphrey kind of stole my thunder. I was going to start by welcoming everybody who's here in attendance. Our processes work a whole lot better when there's public participation. And whether you're here simply to observe or to participate, I respect and thank you for your attendance.
Well said, Commissioner Zick. Thank you. Commissioner Andrade? Okay. Commissioner Martinez?
Yes. So last Wednesday and this Wednesday are walk to school day. So please slow down while you're driving about on Wednesday morning so that our children can get to their school safely. Tuesday, October 22nd, the city will host a fair housing workshop at 1:30 p.m. I believe it's virtual. And on Thursday, October 24th, there will be a planning meeting for future housing and community development funds at 6 p.m. at the Norma Herzog Community Center. And finally, the 5th of November is Election Day. So make sure you vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez. Commissioner Klepak?
All right. Happy National Arts and Humanities Month to everybody. This past Saturday, I went on the 3rd annual art crawl, which is a pilot through our Parks and Community Services Department. And it was an all-day shuttle event. It was fantastic. We went to see the Jewel Dome at South Coast Plaza. We went to the Sean Woolsey studio on 19th Street, and he's a carpenter. He builds very high-end gaming tables and things like that. And then we went to Art Time Ceramics and actually did some ceramics, new woman-owned business in our city. So if you're feeling some FOMO right now, it will be going on again next year. And I'd encourage everybody to sign up for it because it was really a great way to explore different parts of the city that I haven't seen before.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. Vice Chair Toller?
I'll just say I went to the Scarecrow Festival on a couple days ago, and shout out to Parks and Rec Department that made that happen. It was a huge success. A lot of people there having fun all afternoon. I know it was more than Parks and Rec. A lot of staff and other departments were involved. So good job, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Toller. I wasn't really planning on mentioning anything tonight, but I had something happen to me a few days ago that I think speaks to what a lot of the experience might be for some folks around our community. So, as many of you know, I have a dog. His name's Willie Nelson. Okay. And Willie and I, we tend to ride our bike or skateboard or walk down the street to my neighborhood park in Mesa Verde, particularly in the mornings and the evenings. And in coming back from the park in the morning, during around the time when kids are going to Adams Elementary, someone ran through us basically when we were crossing the street. So it was a really close call. We almost ate the big one. And it started making me think about where we're going as a community with a lot of these pedestrian improvements, bike lane improvements, trying to enhance safety and security throughout this community. It's not just a pet project. My dog and I personally came face to face with a moment where a car just about ran us over the other day. So when I think about the trajectory that we're going on as a community in trying to enhance safety, that this is most definitely the direction we want to go into. We want to make this a much better experience for people who are traveling around this city other than in a car. That's all I want to share. Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to the consent calendar. I see we have 2 consent calendar items tonight. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted upon in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the Planning Commission staff or the public request specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar for discussion. Items removed from the consent calendar will be discussed and voted upon immediately following Planning Commission action on the remainder of the consent calendar. And if you would, Anna, please read the title of those items.
Consent calendar items, minutes, September 23rd, 2024, unofficial meeting minutes, March 28th, 2022, unofficial meeting minutes.
All right, thank you. Colleagues, do you have any comments on the minutes? All right, seeing none, may I have a motion? Motion made by Martinez. What is your motion, Commissioner?
Move to approve?
All right, second. Is there a second? Second by Toller. Would you like to speak to your motion?
No.
Okay, no? Okay. And a roll call vote, please.
That motion carries 6-0.
All right, thank you. We are coming to public hearings for this evening. We have 3 public hearing items tonight. And Anna, if you'd please read the title for public hearing item number 1.
Public hearing item number 1, Master Plan PMAP-24-0003 for the development of a new Costa Mesa Fire Station number 2 with a minor conditional use permit for temporary manufactured structures located at 800 Baker Street. Please note we have received public comments on this item that have been provided to the commission and made a part of the record. This is a call for any ex parte communications.
All right, Commissioner Zick, any ex parte on this item? All right, Commissioner Andrade? Vice Chair? All right, Commissioner Klepak?
None.
Commissioner Martinez?
None.
All right. And I have, I don't think this is entirely needed for disclosure, but I did go to the open house at the fire station on Adams about a little over a week ago. They had plans out in the fire station depicting what they were proposing on this, and I did ask the fire chief at the station some thoughts on that, just some clarifications in terms of the rendering. But that's about all. So that's about it for me.
Chair.
Yes.
I'll add, I was also at that open house, so did get to see the plans, talk to some of the staff, got a tour of the site, so
Okay.
I'll
All right. Thank you. I'll now turn it over to Mr. Yeager to present the item. Mr. Yeager.
Good evening, Chair and Commission. My name is Chris Yeager, Senior Planner here with the City of Costa Mesa. The project before you tonight, it is a new fire station number 2. This does require a master plan for the development of a fire station, and a minor conditional use permit is also proposed to allow for temporary structures while the facility is under construction so it can remain operational. The approximately 35,000 square foot subject property, it is located at 800 Baker on the north side of the street between Jeffrey Street and Randolph Avenue. The site is surrounded by residential uses to the east, north, and west, and across Baker Street are commercial and entertainment uses. Since 1966, Fire Station Number 2 has been providing fire protection and emergency response services to the Costa Mesa community. The existing approximately 6,600 square foot fire station consists of a apparatus bay and approximately 3,800 square feet of living and working space. However, after 58 years of service, the fire station has exceeded its useful life, and it is no longer compliant with industry standards and specifications. The images on the top are the existing fire station in the top left. The one on the right is the block wall at the rear of the station, which is supposed to be removed. The images on the bottom row here, this is the inside of the station. You can kind of understand what it's like. The bottom left, it is the one locker room and shower facility, which is shared with all firefighters on the site, both men and women. The middle picture there, it is the gym, large enough for about one person. And on the right there, you have the existing kitchen and dining space. The proposed fire station, it is generally proposed to be constructed on the center of the site with drive aisles, visitor parking, and landscaping at the front. 9 crew parking spaces are proposed at the rear and the rear parking lot, and those are proposed to be covered by a carport. An existing hose tower is on site, and it is proposed to be relocated to make room for that new parking. And in addition, an emergency generator and a fuel tank are also proposed to be relocated to the rear of the property. All the structures proposed, they do meet minimum setbacks requirements for the zones. For the fire station to remain operational during construction, the project is proposed to be constructed in 2 distinct phases. Phase 1 includes installing modular living quarters, apparatus bay, and storage, which you can see highlighted in blue on the left of the screen. 2 construction offices are also proposed to be installed at the front of the property, shown in red on the right. Temporary structures, with the exception of real estate offices and construction offices, do require a minor conditional use permit. So that's why this is here today. And at completion, these temporary structures, they would be removed from the site before the fire station is operational. The new station, it does feature a 2-bay double-deep apparatus room, various administrative offices and workspace, 8 dorm rooms, kitchen, dining room, a day room, and an expanded exercise room. In addition, there's a partially open outdoor patio area, mechanical rooms, and other various support spaces throughout. Proposed fire station is designed to blend modern architectural elements with more traditional elements presented in the surrounding residential neighborhood. The fire station, it will feature wood-like siding, stucco, and stacked stone veneer. And the building does have a gable roof, which peaks towards the middle of the building and goes down as it goes towards the sides. This design, it does reflect elements present in the surrounding neighborhood. This will help the station integrate seamlessly into the surrounding neighborhood. The project includes 2,000 square feet of landscaping, including new landscaping in the front of the fire station and in the rear adjacent to Randolph Avenue. The landscape materials, it does meet the intent of the municipal code and does propose a variety of drought-tolerant and California native plants. Overall, the project complies with the general plan and zoning code and would bring the fire station into conformance with industry best practices. The new fire station would improve facilities for firefighters, including new private bathrooms and showers, fully enclosed dorm rooms, additional spaces for exercise and recreating when on call. And the spaces, this would allow for additional apparatus, which would help the fire department deploy apparatus as the city's needs change in the future. In addition to standard conditions of approval, some specific conditions, including that temporary structures will be removed and that temporary structures comply with all setbacks and FAR, have been applied to the project. And the findings for the project, it does need to make master plan findings and minor conditional use findings. Overall, the project does exhibit excellence in design, site planning, and the integration of uses and structures and protection of the integrity of the neighborhood development, and also the use of the temporary structures. It is substantially compatible with the surrounding neighborhood and would not be materially detrimental to the health and safety or welfare of surrounding properties or people. Should be noted that one public comment was submitted for the project. That comment did just request that the project keep in mind the surrounding residential uses. So with that, staff recommends that the commission adopt a resolution to find the project categorically exempt from CEQA and to approve the master plan and minor conditional use permit, subject to the conditions of approval. So I'm happy to take any questions. We also have representatives here from the fire department, public works department, and the architects team.
All right, thank you, Mr. Yeager. I appreciate the presentation. Commissioner Zig.
Mr. Yeager, thank you for your report. I have two questions for you. Could you turn to page 8 of your presentation? I don't see any skylights anywhere on these renderings. Is that something that is maybe a detail simply not incorporated, or is there a reason that you're aware of that they don't have any?
So as currently proposed on these elevations, there are no skylights. If they did choose to incorporate skylights into the design, it would not require any additional public hearing.
Okay, and then second question, you mentioned the parking is covered. Would it be covered with solar panel structure?
As currently proposed, it's a carport. The architect team may be able to provide additional guidance on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Zick. I had the same thought. You beat me to it. Commissioner Martinez.
Yes. All right. So first, I wanted to ask, what is City Council doing with this tomorrow? This is a rare instance where we get back-to-back meetings. So they have a design review. So how is this hearing tonight related to their item tomorrow?
Tonight's hearing is the approval of the master plan. The Planning Commission is the decision body on all master plans in the city. Tomorrow's hearing would not make any decisions regarding the project itself. However, finances and various other contracts would be discussed by City Council.
Okay. During the construction period for the station, how the fire trucks, how will they get out? Are they going to use back Randolph, what they normally use to come in right now?
So during construction, there will be certain phases where the fire trucks cannot exit on Baker. So to remain operational, there will be various phases of construction where they would have to enter and exit on Randolph.
Okay. The staff report mentioned that the trees at the front, and I guess we can see with this slide that's in front of us, that the trees are going to be removed. Can you explain why that is?
Sure. So specifically the northern canary pine, it is pretty much right up adjacent to the building and various utilities, so that has been causing trouble. The southern canary pine, while it does not necessarily have current issues in the location, the proposed circulation of the site would be impacted if it was left on site. So it is proposed to be removed and replaced with the new landscaping.
Okay. All of the utilities are going to be removed and replaced. Is that correct?
There will be new connections to utilities, yes.
Okay. Does this have a natural gas connection?
I do not believe there's natural gas on site,
Okay,
but yeah, we'll follow up with the architect if you have an additional question on that one.
Okay. In August, there was a community meeting about this fire station. So I wanted to know, what was the feedback at that meeting? How did this plan change based on that feedback?
So there were two design options presented. There was more of a modern option and more of a traditional option, which you see in front of you. Through the different outreach to the community, the employee association, as well as other fire department staff, the proposed design in front of you is the preferred design for the fire station.
So generally, maybe it's the exterior that changed, or?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the exterior changed. The floor plan was the same.
Gotcha. Okay. what walk-up services are available at either this fire station or really, I guess, any fire station?
Well, I would defer that to the fire department, but generally there's not much walk-ups services at fire station number 2. However, there have been instances of people walking up and requesting service.
Okay. What vehicles are stationed here?
So currently there's one frontline engine and one reserve apparatus. The expanded space would allow for additional apparatus in the future.
Okay. So these two vehicles, I guess there's only two, so there's no need to question about the length and if they can fit back to back in one aisle. Okay. Has there been like a large issue with the vehicles going around via Randolph? Have there been complaints? What's the reason for this new driveway design?
The intent for the fire station to allow for apparatus to go in and out off Baker, it just removes fire station or fire apparatus from Randolph. It is a primarily residential street, and the fire department wants to be a good neighbor, remove those large noisy trucks from driving right by people's windows.
Okay. Have there been any complaints about either that issue or any other issue with this fire station?
I'll defer that to the fire station or fire department.
I will ask them that. The traffic signal in front of the station will remain, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. The bike lane on Baker in front of this station, it narrows down from, I don't know, let's call it 7 to like 3 feet. Is there any plans to change that, or can that be addressed with this project as well?
We can work with the Public Works Department to address that.
Okay. And finally, this station is in a pedestrian opportunity zone per the pedestrian master plan and the circulation element. We have a policy that says that we should avoid the creation of frequent driveways for new development access in active pedestrian areas. And another that says to continue to evaluate and pursue design and operational improvements such as driveway closures to improve the safety and efficiency of intersections. Were these policies discussed with the fire department regarding this new driveway?
Yeah, city staff is under the understanding that the benefits resulting from fire trucks not being on Randolph would be good for the facility. Obviously, pedestrian safety is very important to everyone, and the fire department understands that as well. When putting everything together, the design to allow the ingress for the trucks at the front, it was a preferred option.
Okay. Those are all my questions.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Martinez. Commissioner Klepak, any thoughts? Okay. Anyone else? Yeah, Vice Chair Toller.
I think some neighbors might be a little worried about the sound. And it's a new facility, so has there been any analysis or anything specific about this that's going to make it less or more noisy? Do we know?
So there was not an acoustical study conducted. However, the fire station's been in operation for 58 years, and removing trucks from Randolph, it would reduce some of that noise to the neighbors.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Vice Chair. Anyone else? Commissioner Zick.
Mr. Yeager, you do indicate in the staff report that this fire station was built in 1966. Do you know when the residential development around it was built?
I do not know the exact year, however, it was after the fire station.
People fully aware that they're moving in next to a fire station?
Correct.
That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else? Commissioner Andrade.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing a brief highlight about walk-up service opportunities, because when I got to visit at the open house at the station, I wasn't familiar with I knew where it was, so I knew straight down Baker and I parked around there, but then to cross, I had to walk all the way out to Bristol. And just thinking about, accessibility, walkability. I don't know if there's an opportunity to create a crosswalk that allows folks to go cross Baker from the opposite side of the fire station, given the kind of services that are already providing.
Mr. Yang,
Opportunity.
did you want to respond to that one?
So Commissioner Andrade, Public Works can consider that in conjunction with the architect.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, I think that's it, Mr. Yeager. Thank you. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing and ask the applicant or the applicant's representative to come up if they're present. And if you would, please state your name for the record if you've read the report and the conditions of approval and if you agree to them. Do we have the applicant's representative this evening? Mr. Yeager, do we know?
Yeah, the architect is here.
Okay. All right, welcome, sir. If you could just state your name for the record, let us know if you've read the conditions of approval and if you agree to them.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Jaime Moreno, and yes, commission's been read and approved.
Okay, all right, thank you. The floor is yours if you'd like to make a brief presentation or any comments based off of what's been discussed so far.
Thank you, Commissioner. I just wanted to add to the comments that were made by Commissioner Martinez as far as, and as well as Commissioner Sick for the carport. We are designing it to account for solar panels and stuff like that, especially since this is going to be a LEED Gold project. And as well as, is looking into the natural gas and stuff like that. It does something as we move forward to design development. It's something that we're going to be discussing both with our civil and our plumbing engineers as necessary.
All right, thank you. If you have nothing else to add at this point, I'll go ahead and toss it over to my colleagues to ask you any questions if they do, starting with Commissioner Zick.
First question is about the skylights. Do you consider those?
We consider where it's solar tubes, and usually we put those on the kind of the flat roofs, usually in the hallway areas, and that is something that we'll consider as the project develops further.
Okay, and the second question, I would have posed it to the fire department, but I think I know what answer I might get from them. So I'll pose it to you. If this wasn't the perfect facility, incorporating everything that they would have dreamed for, what is it lacking?
That's a good question.
See, they're going to say, no, it's fine, it's brand new, we'll be happy with it. They wouldn't tell me they wanted something extra because that might come across as greedy. But they might have told you, it really would be nice if you would give us this, this, or this.
Well, we've been working very closely from the very beginning with the fire department in the city, and, we've been accounting for all their needs. At the end of the day, we want to give them, a facility that's going to meet their needs and obviously assist the public in all ways. So as far as, having something, I think it's not that it's lacking, but it's something that we are considering, and I think it was also brought up, and it's also the acoustics and how we're going to attenuate all that sound, especially for the neighbors. So that is something that we're looking towards too, and that will be the only thing that I would say that needs further study.
Okay, that's fair. Thanks.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Zick. Anyone else? Commissioner Martinez.
There it is. Okay, so the site area is 34,520 square feet. The floor area for this new station is 8,630 square feet, which is exactly 25% of the lot size. So I have to ask if this was designed to meet or at least not exceed the FAR exactly.
So the square footage that you're allocating, obviously that's the usable square footage. And obviously we have a very tight site, and with all the programming, we best tailor it to accommodate, the FAR. So we are below what I believe is 25% of the FAR allocatable space. So yes, it was designed to account for the FAR.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of on following up on Commissioner Zick. I'm wondering if there had been something extra that might have been cut out to meet the FAR. It sounds like there was not.
So I Commissioner Martinez, I'll take a crack at that just a little bit. As far as the floor area ratio, it is a requirement of the zoning code, but it's also included in the general plan. There was early discussions on a larger fire station. However, in order to do so, it would require a change in the general plan, which is a significant amendment, as you might expect. However, at the end, the architect put some effort in, a little extra effort into, and it wasn't much larger than what is being proposed now, but to create all of the needs that the fire department were requiring to improve the facility and make the facility at the standards that they expect, and even some of the newer facilities that we do have, this facility is going to better. So in a lot of ways, this fire station we're really looking forward toward, and it's going to provide our service to the communities and our firefighters a great place.
Okay. Let's see. The new return driveway, was that requested by the fire department itself? Did you bring that forward? Was it community feedback? How did that come about?
When you refer to the return drive, were you referring on Randolph? Or what necessarily are you
The
referring to
new
the return?
driveway from Baker.
No, all that was derived based on, the response drive and return drives that, the fire department would need to facilitate that facility. So it's all derived from the needs of the fire department.
Okay. I have questions here that weren't answered before, so I guess I should ask for a fire department representative, specifically what services the fire department provides on walk-up. I'm especially curious as to when these new visitor parking spaces would be used.
Sure. Well, good evening, Honorable Chair and Commission members. Thank you for having us tonight to start off. Appreciate this opportunity to talk about this project. As you can imagine, we are very excited about bringing a new fire station. We've been talking about Station 2 for about 5 years. But with that being said, I know the questions that you have, I'm going to just introduce part of the team that we have, Assistant Chiefs Jason Pyle in Operations and Assistant Chief Fire Marshal John Neal. And I'll let them kind of field some of these questions, but I wanted to just thank you for your time today. I want to thank the great teamwork that's gone on, Assistant Director Drapkin, Chris Yeager, the entire team, and then our partnership with Public Works has been phenomenal. So it's an exciting project. And we are looking forward for completion. The end goal of it, there were a couple questions I'll hit before I turn it over. The end goal is that it was something that's going to be able to serve the community for over 50 years, the same goal that we had for Fire Station 1. And that's something that was very important, something that was integrated into the community, and that's why we were happy to have the community feedback and input. The services that we have also, there are a lot of things we would expand on, so I appreciate the question if we were given a full palette. But we wanted to make sure that we were able to conduct the project in a reasonable time frame, and we wanted to make sure, most importantly, that the capacity of that station has something to grow for the future. What we currently have, we simply just don't have that capacity, in addition to all of the technological upgrades that we have. But the size capacity is going to be able to take us down the road and will carry us for 50 years in that structure. So we're very happy with what's been presented. And as Assistant Director Drapkin said, we were able to work with the architects to meet our specific needs. But with that, get back to the original reason I came up. I'm going to turn it over to our Assistant Chiefs, who are key players in this, and we'll take a hit at all of the questions you might have. Chiefs.
Good evening, Honorable Chair and Commissioners. My name is Jason Pyle. I'm the Assistant Chief for Operations, and a pleasure to be here with you tonight and answer any questions you have, and I can stay all night. I enjoy coming up and talking with you, so fire away. I look forward to it.
All right, I'll repeat my question. What services are provided at the fire station itself, and why would what is the need for the visitor parking at the front of the station?
Great question, Commissioner Martinez. Every fire station, for all intents and purposes, is open to the public 24/7. Whether we're there or not, there's an emergency phone in front. That service by the public is utilized way more than people understand, whether it be for generalized questions, obviously emergency medical or issues or problems. We routinely receive people to our front door as ambassadors of the city for questions or needs or concerns, whether they're reporting everything from a crime to a need to just how do you get to South Coast Plaza from Station 2, right there around the corner. We have on a daily basis multiple people at all of our stations walk up and ask multitude of questions. Having a dedicated customer parking space, both ADA compliant and a regular space, affords for people to be able to come up safely and be able to approach our front door. Currently, as you've already identified, we have a lot of people every day who come. Now, it's a crime to park in the apparatus exit path. So people know that. They do good stewards of themselves. They park across the street and they play Frogger trying to get across and hope not to get run over by the cars going through. If you don't provide that adequate parking for them right in front of the station, you risk their lives by them still, they're going to come to the front door for that need or that question. We need to make sure we facilitate for that. Architects and the city staff have made sure that we have that availability for the customers to come up for whatever their needs is. Specifically to your question of what services, this fire station does not conduct external city-based business, like you don't come here to get a park permit or a fire permit. You come to City Hall for that because of the institutional business that happens here. The fire station is a place of operational business that the citizens come from the community to ask questions or needs, and that's what we're there to facilitate. Hope that answers that question.
Yeah. Great. I did not know all of that. That's why I asked. And is there a big operational issue with the fire trucks going around Randolph? Does that pose any problems for the fire department, or like currently as is condition?
So that fire station, if you look back in the oldest drawings, it's a sister ship to the Station 4. The drive used to come down the sideway. The station was expanded, you have to go back in the archives, by about 8 feet on one side, and that eliminated that drive aisle that at one point in time was actually there. That drive aisle is the most direct route off of Baker that allows us to not impact our neighbors coming off Randolph. Now, if you go back 30 years, Randolph was a little less congested, had less homes on it. There used to be a park back there, and there weren't nearly as many cars parked on it. It's now a pretty tight street. There is a center median as you come into Randolph that's extremely tight for us to get through. That requires a very precision cut through to get in. And we also have multiple cars in there that we're constantly coming head to head with. That drive aisle through Randolph is difficult for us to come with the number of traffic coming through there. It's very slow, but mostly our trucks, no matter how much we try to be quiet, that is a commercial vehicle going past all of our neighbors. We do everything we can to be as quiet as possible. Even our back gate is somewhat of a noise. Coming off the front creates or eliminates all that back street noise to our neighbors for the residentials, for their windows. It also gives it a safety factor for us because we're not trying to navigate down a small residential street every time we come back and do that turnaround.
Mm-hmm. All right. I have one last question for Public Works, but while Fire Department is up here, does anyone?
I appreciate all those comments about the noise, and I appreciate your taking into mind, being as quiet as possible. But I can't imagine that any driving by that you do around these houses is going to be any louder than the freeway, right? That's right above, or just a couple of feet away. I think it's the 73 that intersects. So I'm not too concerned with that, and I'm sure that you guys are great stewards of the community. Your thoughts on, like you just mentioned, community members or just visitors doing that, what did you call it? The Frogger, trying to do the Frogger ride to cross safely. Again, when I went to go visit, I was like, either I walk, I don't know how far away to Bristol or to the other side to the next light, which took a huge loop around. So like, would that be helpful, right? To provide accessibility for folks to walk through?
A crosswalk at that point, I'll defer to Public Works as far as the metrics, as far as where and how. But if you're putting one in specifically for the fire station, by putting the parking spaces in front, I believe you've accommodated what that need is. Mm-hmm. Now, just down the street or just to our east is Randolph with a new light feature that someone can cross to help create that better crossway path. So that's a very easy walk to come across. I think for pedestrians who are going to be utilizing a cross at that point, we are at the end of the commercial aspect. There's only a few buildings in front of us when you come across. Yet if you go down to Randolph, that's when you're going to hit Randolph Street, and you got all the good libations that happen down that street and what people are actually heading for. So I'm not sure if a hawk signal at the fire station would facilitate much. I'd defer to Public Works to say whether or not that commission study would work or not. But as far as people coming to see us, that space that's right in front of the fire station that's been programmed, both for ADA and standard, is what's going to be the most utilized for visitors with us.
Got it. Great. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Andrade. Anyone else up here have questions for the applicant? All right, seeing none. If we have questions for staff, we'll go ahead and cycle back to that in just a few minutes. But Chief, thank you so much for coming up. Assistant Chiefs, thanks for being here and for all you do for our community. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you all tonight.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to public comments. If you'd like to speak to this item, please approach either podium. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and at the 1 minute mark, you hear the chime, and then after 3 minutes, the mic will just shut off. So, yes, sir.
Good evening again. Jay Humphrey, Costa Mesa resident. I'll be brief. I fully support this item. It's been a long time coming. Don't forget, they have to go through construction, and when that's all done, we're still looking at for it to be operational a couple of years down the road. So this has been something where we've need to do, and as I said, I fully support this item. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Humphrey. Anyone else in chambers wish to speak to this item? All right, seeing none. Anna, do we have anyone on Zoom or telephone who wishes to speak?
Yes, we do. Cynthia McDonald, you may provide your public comment.
Ms. McDonald, welcome.
Okay, good evening, commissioners. This is my fire station. I was surprised when I moved into my house that I actually got a discount on my homeowner's insurance for being located, within the proximity of whatever they decided was necessary to give me the discount. But so I attended the open house. And frankly, I was really kind of surprised at the condition of the fire station, really kind of appalled that our first responders were having to live in the condition. But I think that kind of speaks to a former city council that didn't appreciate our first responders like many of us do. This building is long past its useful lifetime. 58 years is way too long for a structure like this to endure the day-to-day use that it gets. And it's sad that we allowed a city asset to depreciate like this, but it's like I say, this is a long time overdue. And in terms of the noise, when I hear the siren go down the street, that's our tax dollars at work. Our first responders are out helping people who need help. So please support it.
All right, thank you, Ms. McDonald, and please give Rick my best as well. Anyone else on telephone or Zoom?
No, we do not, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we'll go ahead and close the public comment portion of the public hearing. And colleagues, if you have any further questions for the applicant, now would be the time. All right, seeing none. Does the applicant have any closing comments? You're okay? All right. Colleagues, do you have any further questions for staff, starting with Commissioner Martinez?
Yeah, so I know this fire station has the signal loops on its driveway, which trigger the traffic signal in front of it. Would the plan also be to trigger the signal for the return of a fire truck, like putting one in the center lane, or would that just be a normal unprotected left turn?
Commissioner Martinez, I'll defer that to Mr. Seth Raman, who probably be better equipped to answer that question.
Director Seth Raman, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Martinez. Yeah, the return is they just come in with unprotected left turn.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Colleagues, any other questions for staff, particularly Director Seth Raman? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Director. Any other questions for staff before we move along? All right, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and I'll go ahead and make the motion to find that the project is categorically exempt from the provisions of CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act, pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15302, class 2 for replacement or construction, and to approve master plan MPAP-24-0003 and minor conditional use permit based on findings of fact and subject to the conditions of approval. Is there a second? Seconded by Vice Chair Toller. I'll go ahead and speak briefly to this in saying that this is a beautiful design. It seems to incorporate all the things that we would need to give our first responders the tools and resources to keep our community safe and to also give them the space that they need to grow into our community as our community grows as well. So I enthusiastically support this, this item. Vice Chair?
I second everything that the chair just said. That's it.
That's a good one.
Yeah, the fire department, they're the closest things we have on earth to superheroes, so anything you guys want. I'm glad personally that we went with the traditional looking one. I think a lot of people obviously preferred that. So like Cynthia McDonald said, it's been 50-something years. It's time for an upgrade, and I'm glad to see that our city's making this investment.
All right, thank you, Vice Chair. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Commissioner Andrade.
Yeah, I mean, my only feedback as my 8-year-old provided as she was really disappointed you're not going to get the tube to slide down for emergencies. But again, congratulations. This is a wonderful project and clearly overdue, especially taking a look around at what the site was looking like and knowing the capacity that it's going to now support the community is huge. So really appreciate all the great work that you guys are doing, and also hearing about how your team also is primary in responding to a lot of the fires that we're having. So definitely your folks need all the support that we can get.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Andrade. Anyone else on this motion? Nope. All right, seeing none. Anna, if I can call the question, please.
That motion carries 6-0.
All right, thank you, Anna. That decision is final unless appealed to the City Council within 7 days. Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and take a 5-minute break. We'll see you back here at 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. Thank you. Welcome back to the Planning Commission meeting of Monday, October 14th, 2024. I now call the meeting back into order. And Anna, if you'd please read the title for public hearing item number 2, I'd appreciate it.
Public hearing item number 2, conditional use permit PA-23-07 for valet services at Playa Mesa Restaurant located at 428 East 17th Street. Please note we have not received public comments on this item. This is a call for any ex parte communications.
All right, thanks, Anna. I'll go ahead and start to my left. Commissioner Martinez, any ex parte?
None.
Commissioner Klupak?
None.
Vice Chair?
None.
Commissioner Andrade?
None.
Commissioner Zick?
I visited the site yesterday afternoon.
Okay, thank you. And I have none to report. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Aldana to present the item. Mr. Aldana.
Good evening, Chair Arith and Commissioners. I'm Christopher Aldana, Assistant Planner with the Economic and Development Services Department. The applicant, Playa Mesa Restaurant, requests a conditional use permit to operate valet services during the restaurant's operating hours. Pursuant to Costa Mesa Municipal Code, valet parking may be offered when and as authorized by Planning Commission approval of a conditional use permit. The project site consists of 2 adjacent lots located on north side of East 17th Street, located east of Tustin Ave. Playa Mesa Restaurant is located at 428 East 17th Street, which is the narrower parcel outlined in red. The other parcel outlined in red dash is improved with a commercial building occupied by Pete's Coffee. Access and parking are shared between the 2 parcels. The project site is designated General Commercial GC and is zoned Local Business District C1. Valet services will be offered throughout the week, generally coinciding with Playa Mesa's operating hours. During Playa Mesa's business hours, 55 of the site's 69 parking spaces will be used for valet, with the remaining 14 spaces allocated to Pete's Coffee. When both Pete's and Playa Mesa are simultaneously open, Playa Mesa will provide complimentary valet service for Pete's customers' cars. And when Pete's Coffee is closed, their 14 parking stalls would be available to Playa Mesa patrons who prefer the self-park instead of using valet. Valet staffing will consist of 2 to 4 attendants made up of both greeters and runners. A greeter welcomes guests and manages the flow of traffic by identifying vehicles to be parked by the runners. The runner is then responsible for timely parking and retrieval of customer vehicles. All valet attendants will wear standard uniforms and are trained in customer service. The valet drop-off area is accessed from a shared driveway along East 17th Street. The driveway is approximately 155 feet and allows for 8 vehicles to be stacked on site before the queue could potentially block the public sidewalk. Valet greeters will monitor the vehicle queue and move the line forward to avoid potential conflicts with the public right-of-way. Runners will take the car at the valet podium and park cars throughout the parking lot in a way that allows for an additional 24 vehicles to be parked on site. While the valet service is in use, the site's valet parking count will increase to 93 spaces. Playa Mesa has operated at the location since 2018, and there have been no incompatibilities with surrounding uses. The proposed use is substantially compatible with developments in the same general area and would not be materially detrimental to other properties within the area. Granting the conditional use permit will not be detrimental to the health, safety, and general welfare of the public or otherwise injurious to property or improvements within the immediate neighborhood. Granting the conditional use permit will not allow a use, density, or intensity which is not in accordance with the general plan designation and any applicable specific plan for the property. Playa Mesa does not offer live entertainment and does not propose to extend their hours of operation. The proposed valet is an ancillary service to an existing restaurant and will provide customers with an upscale experience. Valet service will improve customer experience by reducing potential waiting times for spaces blocking drive aisles and further reduce the potential for vehicles overflowing onto East 17th Street. Playa Mesa Restaurant has a limited number of on-site parking stalls, which are shared with their neighboring tenants, Pete's Coffee, so introducing valet service will better manage the parking lot and allow for additional vehicles to park on site. While the valet service is in use, the site's valet parking count will increase to 93 spaces. The proposed use is consistent with general plan policies and objectives, primarily Objective LU 6.2, in that the addition of valet would assist in continuing to promote and support the vitality of an existing commercial use. A comprehensive valet parking management plan has been prepared by Streamline Valet, Inc. to address parking, staging, queuing, and traffic flow. In addition, the valet plan provides customers the option to self-park if self-parking is preferred and available. The valet service would reduce the number of individuals permitted in the parking area. All noise from customers self-parking or loitering will be minimized because of the professional valet services. In addition, the valet podium's location is approximately 155 feet away from East 17th Street, and the distance can stack 8 vehicles before the public right-of-way could be affected. Conditions of approval are included to ensure that the proposed use operates in a manner that is substantially compatible with developments in the same general area and would not be detrimental to other properties within the area. Conditions of approval ensure that any change in the operational characteristics of the use shall be subject to Planning Division review and may require an amendment to the conditional use permit. The use shall be conducted at all times in a manner that will allow the quiet enjoyment of the surrounding neighborhood. This conditional use permit request does not include the allowance for live entertainment, dancing, or extended hours of operation beyond 11 p.m. Live entertainment or dancing or extended hours of operation may only be permitted subject to the approval of a conditional use permit and issuance of a public entertainment permit. Within the project's resolution, condition of approval number 14 reads, valet service shall be provided free of charge to both Playa Mesa Restaurant and Pete's Coffee customers. Staff requests to change the language within condition of approval 14 to read, a fee for the purpose of covering the cost of providing valet service may be charged. Valet services shall be provided free of charge to Pete's Coffee customers. If problems occur for customers parking off-site at neighboring businesses to avoid the valet charge, the valet fee may be changed or removed at the discretion of the Director of Economic and Development Services. Staff recommends the Planning Commission approve conditional use permit PA 2307, subject to conditions of approval, and find that the project is categorically exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act per CEQA Guidelines 15301 Class 1 existing facilities. This concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Aldana. I appreciate it. I think I'll kick us off. I have just one question as low-hanging fruit here. If you can go back to slide 8 for condition of approval number 14, that proposed modification. I'm looking at 9 right now. There we go. Okay. So if I can read this. If problems occur from customers parking off-site at neighboring businesses to avoid the valet charge, the valet fee may be changed or removed at the discretion of the Director of Economic Development Services. My question is, how do we enforce this or actually keep track of people who are parking off-site to actually get the data needed to make that kind of determination? I guess I could ask you or Director Dropkin.
Thank you, Chair. It's easier than you would think, I guess would be my response, in that we get a lot of complaints and they come directly to the planning department. If we're hearing these issues or the businesses are coming forward, or there might be other ways that we hear about them or we recognize them through inspections or what have you, but generally they'll come through the voices of complaints.
Okay.
In this situation, we were, the code allows for fees to be charged with valet. Normally, we discourage it in many situations. In this situation, the valet parking isn't required. The applicant is providing it as a convenience to his customers. He's providing a significant amount of more parking, which is also nice. And then it's our understanding that the property owner is the owner of several properties in that immediate area too, which also make it a little bit less controversial, I should say, to allow for this condition. So there's some things about this, and I just want to bring it up because it's worth stating. There's some aspects of this application that apply that might not apply elsewhere for other projects proposing to do valet. So I'd like to make that a little bit clearer. It wasn't identified in the report so well, but from a perspective of just because this use is obtaining approval of it doesn't mean that another use might.
Item by, project by project.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, Director Dropkin. Mr. Aldana, I think that's my only question for now, but I'll kick it over to my colleagues if they have any questions. Commissioner Zick.
Thank you for your report, Mr. Aldana. So this is a request for a CUP to allow valet parking. They're currently providing valet parking. So what is this all about? They're already doing it. What's this all about?
So Commissioner Zick, this application is just to legalize the activity that's currently going on out there, and as I understand, it has been going on for some while.
Why didn't the staff report say that?
Because I don't think that necessarily that history that has been occurring is necessarily relevant to the current findings that we need to make.
When the zoning administrator approved this, and this is on the bottom of page 5 of the staff report, did the zoning administrator expect that there would be sufficient parking for the use? Or did they know that parking was insufficient and problems would arise and additional measures would have to be taken?
Commissioner Zick, so when ZA 1994 was approved, it was approved for Pete's Coffee outdoor dining to extend their patio area. And so for the longest time, both properties have been considered to have shared parking. So what they did was they used a shared parking analysis. So they hired a third party to do this shared parking study. And what that shared parking study determined was that at no peak time did the demand for parking exceed what was actually out on site. And so because of that, and because they proposed to add a bike rack, they had sufficient parking at that time to extend the patio area. But within their conditions of approval, they included a caveat that reads that whether it be Pete's Coffee or Playa Mesa, if parking issues were ever to arise, it would be the responsibility of both parties to apply for any entitlement necessary to alleviate that issue. And so, to my understanding, they were operating the valet under the impression that it was going to alleviate that issue, not knowing that they needed a conditional use permit. We received a code enforcement complaint. One of our officers went out there. We're a reactive city, not a proactive city in regards to code enforcement, and we always try to amend issues in a fashion where we let folks off with a warning as long as they demonstrate that they're doing it in good faith. And so the applicant applied for their conditional use permit, and I had heard rumors that they had been operating, but as the planning manager had mentioned, in regards to this staff report, we didn't believe that it was necessary to incorporate to make the findings because they were trying to rectify it. But for whatever reason, the application just took a little bit longer than usual. And so here we are about a year later with their formal request as to whether they can continue with their valet parking.
I appreciate that. And I think we can agree to disagree as to whether an application is to simply make an existing condition legal or whether it's really a request for discretionary approval. I note on top of page 7 that 100% of the parking spaces will be used for valet parking. I think I heard you say during your presentation that if a person wanted to park their own car, they'd have the ability to do that?
Correct. So 14 of the spaces that are out there during the hours of operation for Pete's Coffee will be allocated to Pete's Coffee customers to
Right.
self-park.
Right.
But the hours of operation overlap only for a few hours. And then Pete's Coffee is typically closed officially by 6 p.m.
Right.
But from my understanding, they've been closing a lot sooner. So when they are closed, those 14 spaces will be first come, first serve, and are reserved basically for non-paid parking. So any Playa Mesa customer who does not want to get their car valeted, if those spaces are available, they always have the option to park there for free.
So if they go there during lunch, which clearly is during Pete's operating hours, and they don't want to hand their car and keys over to somebody to park, do they just leave and go to a different restaurant to eat, or do they have the right to park their own car?
So that would be a question best for the applicant, but what I can tell you is that we have discussed it with the applicant, and the applicant preferred to have it the way it's presented today.
And when did this change on this condition of approval number 14 come about?
Originally, when the applicant applied for their condition of approval, they wanted to charge $5 for the valet. That $5 fee isn't to, they make no money off of that from what they've said in our discussions. It's really just to recapture the cost of the conditional use permit, which is a few thousands of dollars, and also to pay, decent wages to the valet attendants. So it's really just to manage the valet, to recapture some of the cost of the entitlement. But through discussions with staff, we realized that there was no precedent throughout the city for charged valet services, and that up until this point, valet has always been courtesy, just we'll valet your vehicle while you enjoy your live show or you're eating out. And so at first the applicant was on board because we had asked them that once we come to hearing that they would have to request that, because staff wouldn't be in support of the charge valet because there's never been one. But through discussions with staff, we realized that the code reads that you can request to have a charge for parking through the conditional use permit. So we discussed it with our applicant, and the applicant wanted to proceed with that within, I would say, they've always wanted it, but I would say within the past, since the noticing, they've really become a little bit more adamant about their desire to just want to incorporate it into the staff report. And being that we're customer service oriented in the city, we did just that tonight.
And I appreciate that, being customer-oriented towards an applicant at the expense of the patrons. So our normal going-in position on an application is that we expect an applicant to provide sufficient parking based on use. And according to your table on page 2, the required parking would be 83 stalls, and there's only 69 stalls. And as you indicated, when the zoning administrator has approved these modifications, they expect, I'm hoping, that there's adequate parking. And the belt and suspenders approach typically used says, and if there isn't adequate parking, you, the business owner, has to solve that problem. And what you're saying is we're comfortable that their solution to the problem is to start charging patrons to park their cars because there's this insufficient parking. Just making sure I'm understanding that's the city recommended position.
I think the city recommended position acknowledges that there is a non-conforming parking condition out there already, resulting in, I believe it was 69 parking spaces on the site, and that through the valet, we are able to increase the parking supply during their business hours, improving the situation during that point or that period of time each day. And since it results in an increased supply of parking on the site, we are comfortable in supporting the valet request, is how I would probably place that or make that statement.
Yeah, that'd be another way to characterize it. No more questions.
Right. Thank you, Commissioner Zick. Anyone else? Commissioner, Klepak.
Just one quick question. So if I'm reading this correctly, Pete's Coffee customers are free, Playa Mesa customers are not. So how does that get managed? You're free, you're not. I mean, is it depending on where they tell them they're going when they pull up? It's the same valet station, so.
Exactly, Commissioner Klepak. When the customers arrive to the valet kiosk, the valet attendant would ask, are you here for Pete's or are you here for Playa Mesa restaurant? And depending on what their response is, they would collect the fee or they would provide them complimentary valet services.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
All right. Anyone else? Yeah. Vice Chair, Commissioner Andrade? All right. Commissioner Martinez.
Okay. First, I'll just ask the very basics. Why does this require a CUP?
So the code allows for valet services and also for parking services with a fee via the CUP, the conditional use permit application.
Okay. So every valet service in the city is done through this process?
Correct.
Okay. This application was completely voluntary, correct?
Correct.
Cool. This new condition of approval, the valet fee may be changed or removed at the discretion of the Director of Economic and Development Services. Is the initial fee for the valet also at the discretion of the director, or will that be set by the applicant?
The applicant.
Okay. And then we're saying here that whatever that fee may be, the director can then change it at their discretion.
Commissioner Martinez, not quite, right?
Okay.
At the beginning of that clause within the condition, it says if problems arise.
If problems arise.
So if we notice that the presence of a fee is causing people to not want to park on the site and then they're parking elsewhere in the neighborhood and causing problems, if it happens to be in the residential neighborhood behind or commercial properties across the street or down the street, and we receive those complaints, that's when the Economic and Development Services Director has the discretion then to search out other solutions that will resolve that problem, up to and including having the applicant reduce or eliminate the charge, so that people are now incentivized to take advantage of the valet on the site and park on the site instead of finding alternative locations that are creating problems in the neighborhood.
Okay. One last hypothetical. For these 14 parking spots that are available to be self-parked while Pete's Coffee is in business, right? So during those hours of operation, if someone self-parks and then goes to Playa Mesa, is that then city enforcement? Like, do we care as a city, or is that just up to the applicant to, I don't know, enforce that however they may?
I think that's a two-part yes and no answer.
Okay.
No, the city would not get involved with that as an issue. The applicant is proposing this operation as designed. But if it became problematic for Pete's Coffee, then the staff might get involved with that. But at from this perspective, the property is owned in common, so it's not expected that that this issue would elevate beyond the property ownership, so to speak.
Mhm.
But again, if it did become a problem as this condition is written, we could look into it and decide if there's some reason that Pete's Coffee customers don't have the availability of parking, or because that the other customers for Playa Mesa are saying that they are. But it seems very unlikely that that'll happen, because the valet will probably monitor themselves, because at that point they're not going to be paid. So if they see that frequently enough and they see people walking, it's probably something that's pretty apparent.
Okay.
That was at least staff's initial look at it, because we asked the same question, because it's not a direct way of getting from A to B. It's more of like, okay, well, you say no, okay, that's fine. More of a answer when the valet asks, where are you going? And we trust that you are until they see you walking to one place or the other.
All right. Those are my questions.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Martinez. Just quickly, Director Dropkin and team, based off of what Commissioner Martinez asked about if problems arise, that I was under the impression that we could augment fees as an option if problems arise, but are there any concerns that it would be incumbent upon the city to prove that the existing fees was in fact the encumbrance and not something else? Or is it just making more work for us to have to prove that those fees are what's keeping people from actually parking? I don't know if you're following me here, but I'm feeling just spicy enough to ask the question tonight.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question too, Chair. I appreciate that. It's a bit spicy with regards to how staff would get involved with a pricing scenario. I completely understand your question. It wouldn't be something that staff would generally get involved with from a perspective of trying to negotiate a price. I think it would be more binary. It would either be working or it wouldn't be working.
Gotcha.
So if, for instance, the applicant came to us and said, we recently spiked our charge because valet charges more for minimum wage or what have you, that might be a situation where we would ask them to go back to the original fee. That might be something where we get involved with negotiating a fee. But other than that, probably not.
Okay, I'm just trying to look out for any potential for risk reduction here for the city.
I appreciate that. And also, if we did get involved with that, we definitely wouldn't want to tramp on certain legal issues that we couldn't really get involved with. So my co-part to the left would be probably contacted and asked what discretion we did have.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, Director Dropkin. Anyone else? Commissioner Zick.
To the question whether or not this application was voluntary, I believe I heard the answer yes. Wouldn't a more fulsome answer be yes, or get rid of the valet station?
Those are their options.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Zick. Anyone else? All right, we'll move it along. Mr. Aldana, thank you. And Mr. Rodriguez, Director Rodriguez, thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing and ask the applicant or the applicant's representative to come forward. And if you could do 3 things for me, sir. If you could please state your name for the record, let us know if you've read the staff report and the conditions of approval, and if so, do you agree with them?
Thank you. My name is Mario Morovic. Yes, I've read the staff report, and I do agree with the way it's being proposed. How this came about was contrary to what most people think. Restaurant business is pretty competitive. When we first opened up, we were open and parking was a little bit tight, and we operated for a couple of years, and then we decided to do valet. We didn't do valet thinking that it didn't meet city code. We did valet because we didn't know that a CUP amendment was required for valet. We have valets for different restaurants that we own in different cities, and it wasn't required to have a CUP hearing to have it. When it was brought to our attention that we needed to have a CUP amendment for the valet, we worked with the city staff to allow us to keep our valet going while we ratified the existing use of our valet services. We currently park more cars. We park more cars with the valet. I'm very price sensitive to our valet. What we're currently charging is the most that we've charged so far. We still pay out of pocket every single month for the outside valet company. We pay them a couple $1,000s a month on top of everything that they collect because of the fees and the insurance that they have to pay. We've looked at other avenues to try and make the price even less. We looked at doing our own in-house valet with my own employees and starting a valet service operated by Playa Mesa. But by the time we talked to our insurance agent and talked about how much valet insurance costs, the reason why the existing valet operator is able to operate more competitively is because his insurance fees are spread over multiple restaurant sites because he's a full-time valet operator. So he can get that economies of scale for having insurance and existing employees, right, have it for just one store. Because we have been doing valet for a few years now, 3.5 to 4 years now, we haven't had any issues. We haven't had any complaints from the neighbors. The good thing about it is we're not coming here saying, let's try this and see what might happen if we get it. We're here saying that we've been doing it. We haven't had any issues with it. We're parking more cars because of it. We have not had any complaints for the neighboring businesses, the bike shop, Breakfast Republic, residences anywhere near us. We have not had any issues at all whatsoever with the existing valet plan that we've been using. And the diligent process that the city of Costa Mesa has done up until this point to get to this hearing, they've analyzed this thing so well with the parking engineers and the city staff and, the flow. They've worked with my outside valet company. I hired a third-party consultant, Greg Ramirez, who's here this evening, if there's any comments for Greg as well. They've analyzed this from so many angles, and we have not had any issues at all whatsoever for the last 4 years with the existing valet plan that we've been offering and that we're here tonight to make legal. So I'd like to open the floor to anybody here that has any questions. I'm happy to provide answers. And, it's a tough business, and we want to park more cars when we can. We do pay out of pocket every single month to have valet out of pocket, in addition to what's being collected by the valet company. And the way it works is the more we charge, the less I pay. But we're paying a certain amount to the valet company to allow him to collect the amount that we're charging to the customer. He would love if I charged $8 a car, but that's not my money, that's his money. I get zero out of it, nothing. The only thing I get is the ability to park more cars, to create more customers, to hopefully pay more taxes that benefit the city, the operator, my employees, in the community. So I'm happy to open the floor to any questions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Raprovic. Colleagues, any questions? Commissioner Martinez.
Yeah, so let's see, if I read the staff report right, it says that the applicant, the owner, owns this property and it owns the property next door. So first I wanted to ask, why include the wheel stops at the vehicle way between both parking lots?
They're included because we were asked to include them as part of the process getting through the last 12 months from where we started to here, we were asked to add those wheel stops.
By the city?
By the city, yes.
Okay, that'll be a question for staff.
And my consultant, Greg, was working closer with the city than I was, so he might have a better answer than I have specifically on the wheel stops, but that's my perception of it. Am I wrong?
Yeah, good evening, Commissioners. My name is Greg Ramirez. I'm a planning consultant working with Mr. Morovic for this application. I want to thank city staff as well for their diligent work. The wheel stops were added basically to separate the two parking lots. This lot here where we have the valet parking, we want this just the valet parking lot. This is the parking lot that serves Pete's and Playa Mesa. We'll keep the valet on this side, make sure it's organized, make sure there's not other cars coming through the adjacent lot trying to squeeze through the valet parking lot. That parking lot has an entrance and an exit that it uses. So it was just to separate the two lots for efficiency and safety.
Okay. I think I know the answer to this, but why not just allow customers to either business in adjacent lots to use either lot?
Both lots are different businesses with different operating characteristics. Playa Mesa is a family-friendly restaurant that gets more of a lunch rush. The business next door has a little busier in the earlier and later evenings, and we operate both properties completely differently. We have the Playa Mesa property is partnered up with the Pete's Coffee parcel, and then the lots on the other side have different tenants and different businesses that operate with different operating characteristics. So we're keeping this property to the right of it separate from the property to the left of it.
Are the businesses, they're different operators, they're not owned by the same people?
Well, I own Playa Mesa and Wild Goose, but then I have tenants at the Wild Goose property that the Sunset Rewind, I think it's called, the podcast company, and now they want to expand and take the rear of the property, and there's office space upstairs that is, office space, and there's Pete's Coffee. So they're all different. And, I guess we could talk about redoing the entire thing, but right now the way it was presented was the Playa Mesa and Pete's property is what we're here for tonight, and they have their own CP.
Yeah, I think that would have been interesting to discuss. That's not the application before us tonight. Those are my questions.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Martinez. Anyone else? All right, Mr. Morovic, and let me see, Mr. Ramirez, thank you very much. We'll call you back up here in a little bit.
Thank you as well.
All right, thank you. We'll now open the hearing for public comments. If you'd like to speak to this item, you're welcome to come to either podium. You'll have 3 minutes, and at the 1 minute mark, you hear a little chime, and then the microphone will turn off at the 3 minute mark. Is there anyone in chambers who wishes to speak to this item? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Leila Lester, and I'm here for a different, the next item, but I want to say that I help 440 East 17th Street that is next door to the Wild Goose, and I want to let you know that we've been significantly impacted by the Wild Goose and their customers parking in our lot since they opened. And so I just want you to recognize that when you agree to have businesses, you agree to approve less parking for those businesses, other adjacent businesses are impacted.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lester. Anyone else in chambers wish to speak? All right, Anna, we'll move on to Zoom or telephone. If you're on Zoom, you're welcome to use the raised hand option. If you're on telephone, you can hit *9.
No, there is not, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. I'll go ahead and close the public comment portion of the public hearing and ask my colleagues if you have any further questions for the applicant at this time. All right, seeing none. Mr. Morovic or Mr. Ramirez, would you like to make any closing comments or final comments? Okay, all right. Commissioners, do you have any further questions for staff? Yes, Commissioner Martinez.
So why did we ask for the wheel stops between the parking lots?
I honestly don't know when that conversation occurred for the wheel stops, but what I can tell you is that this the valet plan has been reviewed by the Public Works Department, by the Planning Department, by our fire department. It makes sense because it consolidates the valet into one space. As the applicant mentioned, it prevents from vehicles that are patrons to the other businesses adjacent to this site from interrupting the valet or potentially causing a safety issue. Prior to the proposal for the permanent barrier, what they would do, to my understanding, is install a chain with portable posts. So this is just more of a permanent structure to solidify a practice that they've already been doing to separate the parking spaces. But from the circulation perspective, I'm not going to get too much in detail because I'm not a member of the Public Works Department, but the flow is what makes sense. And also being able to stack the vehicles along the parking stalls to allow the access of another vehicle to enter, it just works. So that's why they're proposing to have those permanent wheel stops as part of this valet management plan.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Martinez. Anyone else? Questions for staff? All right, seeing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Go ahead and make a motion here to find that the project is categorically exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, pursuant to CEQA guidelines, section 15301, class 1 existing facilities, and approved conditional use permit PA-23-07 based on findings of fact and subject to the conditions of approval. Is there a second? Seconded by Vice Chair Toller. I'll go ahead and say that I'm really happy to see that Playa Mesa is complying with the city's request to seek this conditional use permit for parking. Overall, I think it's a great thing. Anything we can do to drive more business into our local businesses, and like you said, Mr. Morovic, it does lead to a greater experience when you are at the restaurant, and you do have a very nice restaurant. And it leads to more tax revenue. It leads to us being able to do more of the things that we would like to do. I think that it's a very reasonable set of asks in terms of the shared parking situation. And, defraying the cost of parking by charging a nominal fee seems reasonable to me as a business owner. And the fact that you're also paying out of pocket to ensure that guests are being given that kind of experience is also something that I think is worth lauding as well. So I have no real concerns with this. I think staff did a great job, and I'm happy to approve this as written. Vice Chair?
Yeah, this is a local business that obviously we want to support. Parking's tight, and when parking's tight, there's a couple of options, right? You could charge for price the parking, or you could do valet. And anecdotally, I went a couple years ago. I noticed the parking was tight immediately. I saw the valet booth and I thought, oh, I could still eat here. It's still an option. I don't have to go find a different place. And I thought, of course they have valet. Parking got tight. They figured it out, obviously, without the city needing to review it. But if the city needs to review this plan, so be it. I think the staff did a good job. And it seems like a win-win situation. And I think this is a good outcome.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair. Anyone else wish to speak to this motion? All right, Commissioner Martinez.
Pardon, just one item. I think this is, again, pretty straightforward application, but understanding, right, that we're encouraging walkability in our city. I mean, maybe a creative idea. I mean, charging for valet is already a creative idea to help the solution and maximize the capacity that you can have in the restaurant. But just as a thought, maybe there's a hey, ride your bike down to us or walk down to us and get a discount on the chips or a salsa or whatever, just encouraging more walkability, right? This area, especially this area, is so rich in variety of business. It has lots of foot traffic. So just again, kudos on a great restaurant, but just again, let's be creative on some ways to getting people on foot traffic. That'd be great.
Thank you, Commissioner Andrade. Commissioner Martinez.
First, I want to make sure with the maker of the motion that condition of approval 14 is amended as presented by staff in the presentation.
Yes.
Yes, okay, good. First, I'll go on my usual why are we looking at this rant and ask why are we looking at this? Apparently, this does not require a CUP in other cities. I don't know if this should be the process for doing valet or for charging for parking. It is the process now, and perhaps we will look at changing that in the future, I hope. I'll also say for any kind of parking, I think Vice Chair Toller mentioned that you want to price the parking if there's not enough. That makes sense. But I also just want to think of if condition of approval 14 hadn't been amended, that would mean that the valet would be free. But that would also mean that anyone who does arrive by walking, by biking, by taking public transit would be paying for the valet services of those who did not arrive by car. And that's true if it's a free valet. That's true if you're paying for the maintenance of a parking lot. That's true for paying the property taxes of that parking lot as well. So I appreciate this solution to this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? All right, seeing none. Anna, we'll go ahead and call the question, please.
That motion carries 5-1 with Commissioner Zick voting no.
All right, thank you, Anna. That decision is final unless appealed to the City Council within 7 days. Good luck. All right, we'll go ahead and take another 5-minute break. I have 7:50. We'll come back at 7:55. We'll see you soon. Welcome back to the Planning Commission meeting of October 14th, 2024. I call the meeting back into order for our final item of the evening, item number 3. And Anna, if you do us the pleasure of reading the title.
Public hearing item number 3. Call to review zoning administrator approval of a minor conditional use permit and outdoor dining permit PODA-24-0001 and PMCP-24-0008 at 814 West 19th Street, West End. Please note we have received public comments on this item that have been provided to the commission and made a part of the record. This is a call for any ex parte communications.
All right, thank you, Anna. I'll go ahead and start to my right. Commissioner Zick.
I visited the site yesterday and have had multiple conversations with members of the public.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Andrade?
None.
Vice Chair? None. Commissioner Klepak?
None.
Commissioner Martinez?
None.
All right, and I talked to Ms. Lester at the break, who made me aware that she's affiliated with the project area, and that's all I have to report. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Arias to present the item. Mr. Arias, welcome.
Yes, good evening, Chair, Commissioners, Justin Arias, Associate Planner. As Anna described, the item before you is a call to review zoning administrator approval of minor conditional use permit and outdoor dining permit for West End located at 814 West 19th Street. By way of background, and at the beginning of the year, the City Council adopted an ordinance to encourage existing and new food and beverage establishments to offer outdoor dining. On May 28th, the zoning administrator approved a project to permit outdoor dining and the construction of a new outdoor patio structure, along with expanded hours of operation for service of alcoholic beverages and to allow for live entertainment at an existing food and beverage establishment, West End. On May 30th, Councilmember Harper submitted an application for review of the approval to be considered by the Planning Commission, expressing concerns about adequate parking for both the applicant and the surrounding businesses. The project site is located along the north side of West 19th Street between Federal Avenue and Placentia Avenue. The property is zoned C1, a local business district, and has a general plan land use designation of general commercial. Physical on-site improvements include an existing 1,034 square foot building with an approximately 175 square foot front courtyard area. The project site is surrounded by commercially zoned properties to the south across West 19th Street, east and west, and industrially zoned properties to the north along Placentia Avenue. Several existing eating and drinking establishments are located nearby on both sides of the subject property. Approval of a minor conditional use permit is required for the following aspects of the proposed project: establishing an outdoor dining area within an existing parking area that results in more than a 50% increase in public indoor area, the removal of more than 25% of existing required parking, for an outdoor dining area cover or structure to encroach into a setback area, for the sale of alcoholic beverages for on-site consumption after 11 p.m. located outside of 200 feet of a residential zone, and to provide live entertainment after 11 p.m. located outside of 200 feet of a residential zone. This slide here provides the proposed site plan for the project, including the proposed outdoor area cover and an existing street view of the property. Pursuant to code, approval of a minor conditional use permit requires 3 findings related to neighborhood compatibility, health and safety, and land use compatibility. The proposed use is compatible and harmonious with developments in the same general area and would not be detrimental to other properties within the area. The use is located along a commercial corridor developed with other similar food and beverage establishments operating under similar hours with live entertainment and outdoor dining. The proposed development complies with city development standards and other requirements such as ADA requirements. Additionally, the proposed outdoor dining areas have been conditioned to comply with the development standards for outdoor dining areas per code, as well as the city's noise ordinance. Granting the minor conditional use permit would not allow a use, density, or intensity that is not in accordance with the general plan designation. The proposed restaurant operations and use are anticipated by the general plan designation for this site. For additional parking considerations pursuant to code, outdoor seating areas shall not be included in the floor area calculations for the purpose of determining the required parking. Therefore, the proposed project does not require any additional parking. In addition, code allows, with the approval of a minor conditional use permit, the removal of required parking for the development of outdoor dining areas. And although not required, the applicant has a private agreement to utilize parking spaces with the adjacent property owners at 1945 Placentia Avenue. Additionally, Assembly Bill 2097 or AB 2097 exempts this property or project from required parking because it is located within a half mile of a major transit location. And lastly, the zoning administrator approval included condition of approval number 15 to address unauthorized off-site parking. Public notice for the call for review was sent out pursuant to code requirements, and a total of 7 public comments have been received for the call for review, all expressing concerns or in opposition with the proposed project. Public comments in opposition cite concerns with parking concerns, specifically customers parking on adjacent lots, people crossing the street, and the proposed hours of live entertainment. With that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution to find that the project is categorically exempt from CEQA and uphold the zoning administrator's approval of minor conditional use permit and outdoor dining permit. We're available for any questions.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Arias. I appreciate it. I'll go ahead and kick us off just because I thought it was pretty interesting. Attachment number 2, which is the application for appeal or review, which is what from Councilmember Harper, which promulgated this review in the first place. I wanted to zero in on what Councilmember Harper had written, which is to review the concerns. So we're specifically for parking in relationship to the applicant and the surrounding businesses. Now, I thought this was particularly interesting in that the last part of that statement says that will be impacted instead of perhaps may be impacted. So maybe just the wording is kind of throwing me off and precluding a little bit of decision, I guess, for us. So I just wanted to point that out, that the wording is a little bit interesting in this sense. I'll go ahead and jump in a little bit later, but I'll go ahead and open it up to my colleagues for questions, Mr. Arias, starting with Commissioner Zick.
Mr. Arias, could you turn to page 4 of your presentation? So the bullet points that you identify here, if any one of these was applicable, that would require the minor conditional use permit, correct?
Correct. And probably something to also note, the first 3 bullet points are specific to outdoor seating. The other 2 are related to food and beverage establishments in general.
Okay. And do all 5 of these bullet points apply to this particular application?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And then could you turn to the next page, page 5? I forget the words you used, but you referenced this front patio area when you were talking about this slide. Is this the outdoor patio eating area, music, live entertainment area? Is this the area?
No. So this is an existing outdoor
So
area.
can you show the picture that shows where that outdoor patio?
Yeah, so on the
eating
site plan,
area
it'd be
is?
the area in the back over here.
So you didn't get a photo of that? Okay. And in terms of this private parking arrangement involving 1945 Placentia, is there some provision that you're aware of, whether it's a condition of approval or not, that indicates that there's going to be signage somewhere here so patrons know where they can actually go park legally?
I do not believe we put one specifically, but if the planning commission feels that is necessary, we can definitely include that.
Okay, and then on page 7 of the staff report, and you referenced this earlier, that the zoning administrator approval included a condition of approval that says customer parking, they cannot park at an adjacent commercial property or adjacent residential streets. So if that occurs, does that mean that this minor conditional use permit will be revoked and the outdoor dining area will be shut down?
That is a potential step of course of action. Obviously, we'd first receive the complaint, ensure that that is an accurate complaint. Then we would first, I think, reach out to the business owner operator to let them know, to give them an opportunity to address the situation. But if it is continuing to be a situation, there is a potential to schedule the approval for revocation.
All right, that's it for now.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Zick. Commissioner Martinez.
Yes. Could you walk us through what occurred during the 4-month appeal timeline between, I don't know, May 30 roughly and today?
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez. I'll take a crack at that question. After the zoning administrator approval was noticed and the call up for review was submitted, we also received the letters from the neighbors, and staff pursued meeting with those neighbors and trying to find a common place for where they would be okay with the project approval. As you know, outdoor dining is something that's encouraged by the council. Staff believe that based on what the applicant was proposing, parking conditions were improving. Their primary concern was parking conditions. We thought that by adding a condition and working with the applicant to monitor people walking across the street or walking from perceived other areas would be of assistance to those neighbors. We know that the parking issues aren't that they might be having across the street might be based on from other restaurants in the area. There are numerous other operations throughout that area, and at that point, we weren't making any real progress towards that. I spoke to the applicant about that, and then the applicant gave it a shot as well. They did not make any progress also, and then that sort of got us to about that 3rd month period where we're trying to write a report, look at what we can do, and then here we are today.
Okay, thank you. What is the relationship between this applicant and the neighboring business that has the shared driveway? Is there any kind of shared parking agreement? What is the situation?
So they have because I'm familiar with that area, and then actually we asked about this early on in the progress, now that I recall. They do have a shared access agreement that's on title. It does not include shared parking, but it is for shared driveway access. The property parking is deficient with both sides, and it's a one-way about almost 10 feet. But without the shared access easement, literally there's no parking availability for either of the sites. So many of the other properties along that area, just FYI, do not have these shared access easements. So that was one of the problems that they're all having along this block with regards to parking and access in the parking lot. It might have been because at one point these properties were maybe all owned in common, but in this situation, there is a shared access easement across that driveway.
Okay. Now for the AB 2097 questions. So under AB 2097, why does the removal of the parking here require an MCUP? Why is it one of our 5 criteria that gets there?
So that is a specific trigger in our outdoor dining table. Outdoor dining, I don't know the specific name of it, but specific for the outdoor dining ordinance. So the removal of required parking would require a minor conditional use approval through that process.
Okay. So what is the required parking at this site? And I want to keep in mind AB 2097.
So let me chime in just here a little bit, Justin, thanks. In regard to AB 2097, we are currently reviewing that with our city attorneys. And one of the aspects of AB 2097 is that the removal of parking is not part of that bill. So nowhere in that bill will you find any language with regards to allowing or not allowing the removal of parking. What it's based on is development. And this removal of parking is not considered development. One of the efforts that staff is currently involved in is preparing a memo that more or less translates what AB 2097, how it should be permitted and how it should be looked at, reviewed with regards to certain projects. And one of the aspects of it that we've gone over with the city attorney's office is that the removal of parking, for instance, for a project where they try to add floor area into a parking lot, that would not be allowed. However, if they were creating a project, a new project, clearly they wouldn't have to worry about an existing parking lot. But the removal of parking spaces is not allowed pursuant to AB 2097.
Okay. I'm just going to read. A public agency shall not impose or enforce any minimum automobile parking requirement if located within half a mile of transit. This section shall be interpreted in favor of the prohibition of the imposition of mandatory parking minimums as outlined in this section. So to me, it sounds like when we're even looking at removing parking, that is, and we say you cannot remove parking, that is enforcing a minimum automobile parking requirement by saying that we cannot remove any that is there. So I'm still wondering why the number of required parking spaces is not 0.
So again, the number of parking spaces for the new development, for instance, the added floor area, is 0. So that goes without saying. However, the removal of parking is not something that is accepted by 2097 and requires staff to do so. The fact is there was a baseline when that provision was written, and the baseline was existing parking situations. So keep preserving existing parking is vital for many operations. The last project is a perfect example. So that is, we have addressed this with our city attorney specifically with this question. He's gone over it with their peers and other agencies, and the removal of parking is determined not to be something that's 2097 accepted.
Okay. Since, I'm just going to move on from parking, whatever. Since this is a de novo hearing, I'm going to ask about noise because, frankly, I don't think with AB 2097 we should be considering parking at all. So I'm going to ask about noise. What is the just general noise complaint process? How does the city handle this? Just for background.
So the noise ordinance is dynamic. It allows for prescribed noise levels, and then it also allows for a different review of perceived noise. So basically, and we've gone through this issue with other projects and other scenarios where there has been noise issues, where staff has gone out and done noise studies or contracted acoustic engineers to do these reviews on several occasions to find if there are, in fact, noise issues. But again, it can be based on a certain decibel level, or it also can be based on a more subjective standard of basically, this is a noise I can hear and it bothers me. And if it meets a certain conditions that are outlined in the noise ordinance, staff can find it a nuisance.
Okay. So if there were a complaint, I'm assuming one of our conditions probably says like they will be, the noise will have to be mitigated, something to that effect.
But a noise condition, correct?
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Martinez. Commissioner Zick.
Thank you. The front patio area that's depicted in this picture, is that permitted under our outdoor dining ordinance? Or is it permitted in any fashion?
Like currently?
Mm-hmm.
Not currently, I believe not so. As part of this, it would get legalized.
As part of this application, this would get legalized?
That front area.
For the use of the, I'm sorry to interrupt, but for the use of that patio area, it's not allowed for outdoor dining. But the actual fenced-in area, I believe, has been there for some time, at least from looking at it.
I'm confused. You're saying it's not going to be allowed to be used?
I apologize. To clarify, I thought your question was, is that patio area as developed unpermitted?
Yeah, that was my initial question.
And it is not unpermitted. It is it's been there for some time, and probably long before the West End came in, and even before the Belly Deli that used to be there prior to that.
Okay, so it is permitted?
So it is permitted,
Okay.
yeah, correct. I apologize for that.
Okay, back to the subject of sound. You said something that really caught my attention, because my general concern about the sound, and I'm looking at condition of approval number 11, which is where this subject is. And we're talking about this project, not a gym down on 17th, but know you're painfully aware of the issues of sound down there. And the way that was, I'll use the term resolved, maybe from our standpoint, was that the level of sound was below 55 decibels. Therefore, what the resident complained about there was not out of compliance with the city's noise ordinance. But you said something a few minutes ago that said that's just one aspect of compliance with the city's noise ordinance, the 55 decibel limit. You mentioned that there's also subjective standards or considerations relative to nuisance sounds. Now, I won't ask you why or how that had an effect on the other project. Not in this meeting, I won't ask you that. In this meeting, I'm going to ask you, so what happens if this is approved, there's live entertainment, and residents over on Federal and in that neighborhood are hearing music until 2 a.m., don't like it, call the city, and are we going to bring out the book and say, well, it's under 55 decibels, it's compliant, or are we going to do something different?
Again, as like you suggested, it's twofold. So it's the decibels, and then it's also more of a subjective review that staff can consider based on a study or an evaluation. I don't want to go into the other operations either, but we did look at it from that perspective as well.
So how I'm trying to think about, how are these residents going to be protected from the potential of hearing music until 2 a.m.? how are they going to be protected? Because if they can hear it, they're going to complain. And I just want to know, is the response to that complaint going to be, well, I can hear it, but it's not very loud?
No, absolutely not. In fact, in both situations that I've been involved with throughout within the city, the city staff and the city in general has been very proactive with regards to noise reviews. In the past, noise reviews that I've been involved with included more than 75 or 80 visits to the site at different times of the day, and complaints are received and investigated by multiple departments and divisions and staff.
No more questions.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Zick. Commissioner Klepak.
So noise complaints that we've heard have been from speakers that were coming from inside a building. I'm looking at drawing A0.1 that shows improvements, and this project is proposing to have an outdoor bar and an outdoor stage built, which I presume would have microphones and loudspeakers and everything else. Is there any noise mitigation measures since this will be outdoor live music?
So to respond to that, we do have included within condition of approval number 11 that the live entertainment shall operate without impacting other developments and businesses, and including the installation of soundproofing to ensure that is satisfied.
Okay. And does that go on the top of a canopy that gets built? How does
So that would be kind of up to the sound engineers to design, and then as part of planning's requirements before they get their certificate of occupancy, we would be requiring our final planning inspection, and specifically for this one, we would be going through the exercise of demonstrating their sound mitigation to ensure no noise pollution.
Okay. And then the other question I had was related to the parking agreement around the corner. Do we have more information about like the duration of that agreement?
So the parking isn't required. It's, obviously exempted per 2097. And based on that, it's hard to condition that and not expose the city to conflict with state legislation.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that all? Okay. Anyone else? Questions for staff? Okay. I just wanted to confirm that, let me see if I can find the page. I wanted to say that the closest residence to this property is approximately 275 feet away, right? It's
correct, and the way we measure per code is property line to property line.
Mm-hmm. And the back of this property faces, is it industrial, commercial?
Yeah, it's industrial. The property's along Placentia. Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and move along if no one has any other questions for staff. Thank you, Mr. Arias. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing and ask the applicant or the applicant's representative to come forward. I'll take any of the three of you. And please do three things for me. If you could state your name, let us know if you've read the conditions of approval and if you agree to them.
Name is Tyler Hertzke, and yes, and yes.
All right, the floor is yours if you want to make a brief presentation or have a discussion about whatever you'd like.
Yeah, I moved to Costa Mesa when I was 22 because it was the city of the arts, and I'm heavily in the music community and art world. I'm a homeowner here. My son goes to school here. I do things for the community. The reason why I have a restaurant is to be part of the community and do things for the community. I work with the biggest sorry, I'm not a public speaker here. But
You're doing great. You're doing great. Don't worry.
I work, I worked with, anyone from Tony Bennett to, the biggest pop stars in the world every day on a daily basis. Tony's obviously no longer here, but my contribution to the community was to have a small, intimate place where, you could have your local artists, your local musicians, and maybe even run into your hero one day, have an opportunity to see them in a small, intimate place for free, unannounced, for the community. My son, he's 11 years old. He's there almost every day when we're open. My girlfriend, she runs the place when I'm working out of the country or with other artists. My partner, he also is an artist himself, and is all about community and helping others, and that's just who we are, So that's just who we are. So I'll take any questions or concerns.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Hertzke. I'll go ahead and kick us off, just because I think there was some pretty rich discussion going on here before you came up. And in consideration of some of the concerns that you heard, how would you address some of those in terms of parking, in terms of noise, in terms of...
Parking's always been an issue over there. And we do everything in our power to get people to park in our lot or, in other neighborhoods, or walk or ride our bike. I ride my bike. I live less than a mile away. The parking lot across the street, it's unfortunate because there are a lot of businesses on the other side of the street that 100% do, I watch it, use that lot. But I think for my business, I can only talk for myself, we want to hire our own security to help that and help with the neighbors across the street. But also with across the street parking, I see car washes going on over there. There's all kinds of businesses run out of the parking lot. So I think my business is the least of across the street's concern. One of your guys' concern was the noise. The noise most of the time a lot of the time actually will be inside the business. And when it is outside, it will not be amplifiers and extremely loud noise. It'll be very mellow. And if it is loud, it will be mitigated. And I'm having a professional acoustic team, design a PA system to accomplish that, right? I do it every day, all over the world, and so.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Mr. Hertzke. So let me dive a little bit deeper in terms of the local businesses and perhaps what your relationship has been like with some of those adjacent businesses and some of the businesses across 19th.
Yeah, I get my hair cut. It's been a while, obviously. I used to get my hair cut, I could say, across the street. When I can, I get stuff tailored across the street. I go shopping at the market across the street, I don't really drink alcohol too much anymore, but when I did, I used to go across the street,
Yeah.
So, I don't really have too many relationships with our neighbors, our next door neighbors, the wine bar or 313 bar. Yeah, you know, I know that they also have live music and all that stuff.
Yeah, I was just kind of wondering if y'all had been involved in the Costa Mesa Chamber events, or if you have like a West 19th business community where you meet up and discuss some of these common issues that you might be facing
No.
in that section.
Yeah, honestly, the last year and a half, 2 years for me, I've been gone, working on different projects. But
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hertzke. I'll, at some point I might ask another question, but I'll kick it around to my
Yeah, yeah,
colleagues
no
here.
worries,
But
man.
Seth,
Yeah.
thank you for your
Yeah, yeah.
responses.
Yeah.
Commissioners, questions? Commissioner, Martinez.
Yeah, could you just speak more to the way that you can plan to mitigate noise? I recognize that, you're doing, it sounds like you know
Jazz.
about music. So what plans do you have? Even the interior, I know before we've discussed projects that have loud music in the interior. And how to mitigate that noise. So how do you plan on mitigate noise both inside, outside, et cetera?
Inside, inside is inside, we never really have issues it wouldn't be louder than, a normal stereo in a restaurant, you know what I mean? Outside, we would have a different, like an awning that would be up to fire code, obviously, when we would have live music to mitigate that. And the proposed walls are all brick wall that are insulated in between, which would be pretty close to soundproof. So.
Okay, so it sounds like when you have an event, you'll
Right.
have a thing to stop some noise. Okay.
Yeah, correct.
That's my question.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Martinez. Vice Chair.
Do you give any guidance to your patrons on where to park, how to park?
Yeah.
You have signs up or something?
Yeah.
What's that like?
My Kaylee would probably be able to answer that if you want to come down.
Well, just
answer
a
that.
summary. You have to.
We like I walk, ride bikes, Uber.
No, I don't understand how they get there. I think a lot of people might
Park in the back of our
the
lot.
regulars. Do they know about the extra parking spaces you have around the corner? Are they notified not to park in the neighborhoods, that sort of thing?
Well, we haven't really implemented the lot yet.
Yeah.
Because we're just not there yet.
Yeah. Well, no, you said parking's always been an issue, so I'm wondering if.
I'm more socially anxious than he is, but I do talk to all our customers and our regulars, and they know, and we do post on our social medias about it, and everyone's known that everything that's been going on in the past and the goal of us getting the parking with the valet or what the next steps are. People are ready to kind of follow along with us, and 90% of our customers live in the neighborhoods adjacent, or they Uber or walk or ride bikes or carpool and are able to park in our back parking lot. So, yeah.
All right, thanks. Regarding the request for extension of hours, the request is until 2 a.m. every day of the week.
Yeah.
So is that?
Four nights, well, I guess every day, but we would only use it 4 nights a week.
Yeah, that was kind of my question.
Yeah.
Is that just a buffer, just in case you have an
No.
event on a Monday night, or do you plan on having a full crowd there?
Thursday
Till 2 every day.
Through Thursday through Sunday, I think to go for the 2 a.m. 7 days a week was just for any bar in Costa Mesa. If you go to Tony's or the Wayfair, it's they're open till 2, so that's why we included 7 nights a week.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it for now. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Vice Chair Toller. Anyone else want to jump in? Commissioner Andrade, Commissioner Zick? All right. All right, Mr. Hertzke, I think we're good for now.
Thank
We'll
you.
call you up
Appreciate it.
in a few minutes, probably after we hear public comment. We'll go ahead and open up for public comments at this time. If you'd like to speak to this item, you're welcome to come to either podium. You'll have 3 minutes, and at the 1 minute mark, you'll hear a chime, and at the end of the 3 minutes, the microphone will just shut off. So please just be aware of that. Mr. Humphrey, welcome back up. Thanks for staying with us late.
Well, what can I tell you? You know, we live to love. Here we go again. Under park, put it in place where the obvious is there's no parking on the street in front of it. There's no parking pretty much anywhere on the street. So they're going to go find parking in the neighborhoods if they don't want to park in that lot in the back. Is there, in fact, access directly to their property directly from that parking spot? I don't see it. I see a solid wall there, which means somebody's got to tear down a wall to move access. And that parking spot they're talking about, you should all go look at it, because on my map, it is back in the industrial complex, which means that you're in the back of an industrial complex coming out of a bar at 2 o'clock in the morning. Are they going to provide a security guard there 100% of the time they're open, no matter what? Somebody's going to be there, because I guarantee you somebody's going to have some problem back in the back of an industrial parking lot behind buildings. You can't hear a thing out at Placentia anyway. I see a real problem there for that kind of parking. I appreciate he's trying to find parking. It seemed to me that it would make more sense for him to make a deal with the people across the street to actually park in that setting, which is more sensical. But of course, what's going to happen is that's not going to happen. So people are going to park there automatically. And is the city going to step in and say, excuse me, you're letting people park across the street? I heard the comment that, oh, we'll have our guards tell them, wait, if you're parking there, you can't park there, park back here. And that's going to work for 18 parking spots. So if they're only going to have 18 cars, it'll never overflow across the street. And of course, the people who drink think about that, and they will not walk across the street when they're going back to their cars that are parked across the street, because that's going to happen. You should also keep in mind that the intersection of Arbor and Continental, the middle of the neighborhood diagonally back behind that facility, open to the air, is 600 feet to that intersection. So you're talking about noise being contained less than that at 2 o'clock in the morning. And that concerns me greatly, because I know in my neighborhood, if I have decibels of 45, 30 at 2 o'clock in the morning, gee whiz, I get up and go, well, I don't, I'm retired, but all my neighbors get up and go and work the next morning at a reasonable time, and being disturbed in their sleep, even minimally, is inappropriate for our community. We have this community that we've built for years.
Thank you, Mr. Humphrey. 3 minutes is never enough, is it? Anyone else? Ms. Lester, welcome back.
I manage Vista Center for 3 out of the 5 parcels. And then I help manage the whole center, the parking area, for all the owners. I'm here on the behalf of the owners, and I'm here on the behalf of the mom and pop tenants across the street. And I know that they've already been impacted by the other businesses that don't have any parking. We've seen it. I've been there on Thursday nights when they have live music at Semi-Tropic, yelling at people, do not park in our lot, going to the owner of Semi-Tropic or the manager that's on staff, asking them, telling them to tell their patrons to move their vehicles or we're gonna tow. And then there's hordes of people running across the street moving their vehicles. I don't think it's fair to our little mom and pop tenants that are also being squeezed right now when we have high inflation and additional expenses, insurance costs, and everything that they are incurring this year. They're the ones that are going to be paying for the security. It's not on the owners of the property. These common area maintenance are going to be, they're gonna have to deal with it. And I've already been told that the parking lot is full on Friday, Saturday nights. And so they're taking away from spaces that our people, our tenants are already needing. So we don't have any available parking. We do not have available parking for the bars across the street that are currently open till 2, and we will not have any available parking for this new establishment that's going to try to open till 2. So I really appreciate you guys really thinking about this and helping our community. I was born and raised in Costa Mesa. My kids go to Kaiser Elementary. You know, it's a very big concern for me to keep the already established businesses in place. And I care about the residents, and I don't want to see anyone hurt either going across the street.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lester. Anyone else in chambers wish to speak? Yes, sir. Welcome up.
Good evening. My name is John McVeigh, and I was born and raised in Costa Mesa, Newport Beach, and my father and grandfather and great-grandfather were residents of the city. Different times, I was actually raised partly in a two-story farmhouse at 17th and Irvine for a couple of years back in 1954. So anyway, my history. I'm here also for the property owners at the Vista Center across the street from the restaurant, and for one of the mom and pop shops. They sent me an email, Anna and Anthony's son, the owners of the Hong Kong Express. I could read it. It would be easier if I could forward it, if I can figure out how to do that, to whoever, for the record. But basically, their issue was, and it is for us too, is one of liability. You've got a restaurant across the street, and I'm sure this is probably other businesses too, where you have people who've been drinking, and you're crossing a multi-lane street. It's getting dark sooner now, and will even more so. And somebody gets hit, gets injured, or even killed, and you get a lawyer that's going to look for some kind of settlement. And who are they going to come to? They might come to us, and we've had trouble enough getting, coverage this year for insurance because we're an older shopping center. We managed to do it, but it wasn't easy. And now we have this additional possible liability coming up with the parking lot, and we're very concerned. Somebody gets hurt, they're going to come to us, they're going to go after the city, they're going to go after the planning commission. I don't know who they'll go after, but the lawyers, they'll figure something out. So that's probably one of our biggest concerns, the safety issue. And we're not so concerned about the sound issue because we're across the street and it's busy in any way. But the fact that we are impacted as well with the parking is the big thing for us. Thank you for your time.
Great, thank you, Mr. McVeigh. Make a request for staff, if you would, Mr. Arias, if you give your business card to Mr. McVeigh. Coordinate on forwarding that message. Yes, ma'am. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Wanda Garrow. I am a property owner, or one of the property owners of the Vista Center, and pretty much everything has probably been said. We are very concerned. As it was mentioned, even though there's other businesses there, I live on Monrovia Avenue, so I frequent, West 19th Street different times, when I'm out and about. And I'm always seeing people, leaving our center on foot to cross or vice versa. And our concern is for their safety as well as, our shopping center, the liability that it could cause or create. So we are very concerned about it. And I don't know if I heard this right, but because there's public transportation, that's why they don't have any parking space requirements? Is that what I heard? That doesn't make sense to me. People are so intelligent. Why does the legislature in Sacramento, pass such crazy things? It doesn't make sense. We have to, be responsible And we have so many parking places, and we have public, but I think we're still required to have so many parking places. Anyway, it just seems like we need to, I guess, use common sense instead of, you know, they don't even know how to balance a budget, you know, we have to, or we end up, you know, in trouble personally. So I just really would like you to reconsider. I mean, I like music. I just went and heard, you know, music on Sunday, you know, I love it. But sometimes it's just not appropriate. And why can't they just stay open till 11 a.m. or p.m. and not extend their hours? And was, oh, I can't talk anymore, never mind.
Oh, no, you still have 50 seconds if you want.
I was wondering, that driveway, is that access to that back parking lot?
If you can
You know that,
step up to the mic.
where it showed the business?
We don't really answer from the dais here. We just listen to
Okay.
to whatever
well,
you're
anyway, I
saying.
wasn't sure how they were going to access the restaurant. If they have to walk around, I don't think they're going to do that.
All right. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, ma'am. I appreciate it. Anyone else in chambers wish to speak? All right. We going to get them one at a time tonight, or are we going to queue up on both sides?
Hello,
Hi, sir.
my name
Welcome.
is Vicente Barajas. I'm the owner of La Espiga de Oro across the street. We've been there for 27 years. Lately, you know, I go close on Saturday and Sunday. We close at 10. And it's hard to find a parking spot sometimes. It's sometimes I got to go to the back in the alley, which is pretty dangerous. And when, if not, I just park behind them with my flashing lights, emergency lights on, and so I can close. You know, everybody, they deserve a chance, but like they say, you know, it's no parking, and they're going to park in our space. And my business is people come in, they buy, and they leave. So I need these parking spaces. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Anyone else in chambers? All right. Seeing no one in chambers. Anna, do we have anyone on the telephone or Zoom? For those on Zoom, please use the raised hand option. For those on the phone, you can press *9.
Dan, you may provide your public comment.
Welcome, Dan.
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
My name's Dan Bozenik. I live in the homes behind this establishment. And I've heard a lot of comments. Parking is a huge issue. I understand maybe there is some dispute as to whether it is something that should be considered. It needs to be considered, right? There's a bunch of issues from a liability perspective that the city potentially will have to deal with in the future. You've just heard a number. But the other idea that they have 4 parking spaces today, they're going to remove 1, so they'll have 3. I'm sure they have staff that utilize some of those 3 parking spaces. There's no parking. The area that they're talking about utilizing elsewhere, you have to walk down the street to Placentia, across the Pizza Hut, and then down and over and then back, right? And you're in an industrial area at 2 a.m. with no lighting, and a contract that doesn't exist, and a contract that potentially, if it does exist, can be, you know, not renewed or whatnot quickly. I want to point that out. The other issue I think that's important to realize is that the applicant themselves, I'm not sure if staff has done any background or any of the commissioners are aware, but they were one of the only restaurants in all of Orange County during the pandemic that were charged with misdemeanor crimes for not following guidelines, right? Guidelines issued by the state, guidelines issued by the county, guidelines issued by our city. They wouldn't allow inspectors in, they wouldn't allow law enforcement in. So they have no intent to self-regulate their parking, I don't think, right? I mean, I'd love to see that. I love music. I'd love to see that to see it work if it had parking, if there was a way to actually mitigate this stuff. The music as well, you heard the applicant. They're not going to do anything interior to mitigate sound. 2 a.m. and 11 a.m. There's a big difference, right? Sound, everything else shuts down, so any sort of sound is gonna amplify. Outdoors, you can't just put a brick wall, and I don't understand what an insulated brick wall is. Brick wall is a brick wall, but sound travels up, sound travels in all sorts of directions. It doesn't, we're relying on them to mitigate that, to hire a sound engineer. Staff hasn't provided any specifics. They don't know. They're relying on the applicant. And lastly, Mr. Drapekin, you had mentioned that the outdoor eating structure has been there for years. It hasn't. They built that. So if there are no permits, they put it there illegally, right? The previous Big Belly Deli did not have that outdoor spot. I used to go there all the time. So we have an applicant that isn't someone that is following a lot of rules. And so I don't think we can trust them to, uphold these conditions. And remember, any of these issues, it's the residents, the businesses that are going to have to be the ones that take the brunt and
Right.
talk to
Thank
city
you. Your
staff. City
time's
staff's
up.
going to.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Anna, do we have another caller?
Frank, you may provide your public comment.
Welcome, Frank. Are you there, Frank? Well, we move on to the next caller.
You hear me now?
Oh, yeah. Hi, Frank.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to push the unmute button.
Hey, it happens
I'll be
to
right in a
everyone.
day or two. I just want to echo the sentiments about the safety going across the street and stuff with the parking. The conditional use permit, I think it's paragraph 13 with regarding security, says that the security guard will ask the people, have you parked across the street, and tell them to go somewhere else. That's fine if that works. I think paragraph 15 talked about no parking in neighboring commercial areas. Any violation of those would be a violation of the conditional use permit, could be revoked. So I'm hoping that if this passes, that they will judiciously uphold that. If not, then they're going to have a problem because it's going to be monitored at all times. So we're just concerned about safety for the patrons and stuff. I know it's going to be a pain in the neck for them to walk around the corner and stuff, but the girls in high heel shoes, they can walk almost anywhere, I guess. We're opposed to this, so thank you.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Anyone else, Anna?
Cynthia McDonald, you may provide your public comment.
Welcome back, Ms. McDonald.
Thank you. I've always wondered how this restaurant or bar survived its tenure with only a few parking spots. There's no way that they could bring in enough money with just 3 or 9 patrons at a time. So the customers are obviously parking somewhere else. They aren't all arriving on bike or foot as much as I might like. So they're parking in the Vista Center across the street. What makes anybody think that's going to change? The customers are going to walk around the corner when their car can just a jaywalk away. I'm not walking around to that industrial parking lot at night as a woman. Forget about it. So the next question I have is, does anyone think that amplified sound doesn't travel? And in the conditions approval, there's no restriction requiring that the amplified music be indoors. I live across the 405 freeway from the observatory. There are nights when I can hear the music coming from there. I can hear the noise from the fair, when there are concerts. There's no way that amplified sound is not going to travel from the stage in the open patio to the residences 3 doors down. And somebody else brought up the fact that the owner doesn't have a short history of not obeying the law. Go back to 2013 to the problems with the 60th anniversary party. He did keep it going during the pandemic when it was supposed to be shut down. What do you think? That West End is going to follow our noise regulations? And it needs 3 security guards? What's going to happen there? Other restaurants in the city with entertainment have no or very little security. And they're going to plan on spending money for the stage and back patio area. But what about the front facade? I didn't know that they actually served food there. I thought it was just kind of a sleazy dive bar based upon what I can see from the street. And I admit I haven't been inside there because the ick factor is just so strong. Looking at the findings, this project is not compatible with the general area. In fact, it and the adjacent commercial properties are in the Measure K map as properties targeted for redevelopment as housing. It's going to have a heck of a time complying with noise standards with the type of amplified entertainment contemplated. Finally, does it comply with development standards? I think the outdoor dining is great, but the amplified entertainment doesn't really match with the project being so close to residential and anticipated residential. And the need for security guards. Well, that it seems the health and safety are going to be a problem. I ask you to turn this down. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McDonald. Hannah, anyone else?
Call-in user ending in 613, you may provide your public comment.
Call-in user 613, welcome.
Yeah, first off, I do appreciate that this business didn't comply with the tyrannical COVID laws and lockdowns. I think that's.
If you could speak up just for a sec, sir.
I'll say it again. I appreciate that the owner of the business didn't comply with the tyrannical COVID lockdown measures. In Florida, they didn't lock down and they did just fine. Different population, actually much older population and comparable results. But anyways, I'm actually calling because there's an issue with parking in front of the restaurant. There's a bike lane that nobody uses. I think our one Commissioner Martinez might ride by there once a week. Besides that, it's just a complete waste of space. You could help the businesses in that place or that location by putting parking there. Get rid of this unnecessary bike lane in front of the businesses and let people park. Promote businesses. You know, again, this bike lane is not used. Now, in terms of impacts of the adjacent residents, I do think that there will be impacts. You are going to have people parking on Federal, and that's going to, impact those neighbors. And we don't want to impact people. And I would hope that this business could survive without expanding. I've been there before, and I thought the layout was fine. But again, I hope that there can be a compromise. I think the hours might be. I understand that they're going to be a bar. That's the end result. We're going to be a bar, and so you have two bars next, three bars. It's four bars in a row there, and then a bar across the street. So there's quite a saturation of bars. I do appreciate the owner here not complying with tyrannical rules and laws, but I can't really get behind them impacting residents and expanding. They do, there will be issues with parking. And again, city can help them by getting rid of that bike lane that nobody uses except Commissioner Martinez and maybe the other guy. But that's my suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you for your call in. Anna?
Hi, my
Hi.
name is Laura Vandermergel. Oh, let's see, I can't hear myself. I reside in the Federal neighborhood, and we have constant issues with noise. Patrons park in the Hurley Alley lot, the access way for Mesa Water District. And so these could be patrons from, Garibaldi del Noche, probably most likely not them. Semi-Traumatic Wines, probably West End, Wayfair. And then you have people fighting or even loud talking. I'm on Federal Avenue, so we always have bar patrons from God knows which bar it could be. So you have the noise factor. Then you have people peeling out at all hours. It's just not safe. If you check West End's Instagram, TikTok. They don't have any information on where to park. That's bologna sandwiches. There's nothing on there about parking. Neither does semi-tropic wines. So the parking situation is we're just saturated. There's no space. And then the open patio area where they're DJing at all hours and the noise travels. You literally cannot keep your window open because the noise is just too much. We spent a fortune, like anyone who's a homeowner in Orange County, to be here and to be troubled with constant parking since the permits are no longer current on Federal Avenue. So everyone's parking here. And then you have the noise factor. And then you have the frickin' people just running across the street. And it's so dangerous. It's like you literally, if you go out after dark, you really have to be careful because people are running back and forth because they're parking in the Vista Shopping Center and in the neighborhood. And just the noise factor. This is a family community. And do they even have a conditional use permit for the music that's going on in the DJing out on the back patio? As the previous Zoom caller commented, do they even have a permit for that? And then the history of non-compliance. So I'm deeply concerned about the community safety, the noise, and again, the parking, which is non-existent. And and then I thought I read something about potentially valet. People don't want to pay a valet. People don't want to tip a valet, even if it's free. I mean, we heard the whole fiasco with the other situation. But I am strongly recommending that the Planning Commission does not approve this conditional use permit for extended hours and for the noise in the parking and all of the things. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you for calling in.
Call-in user ending in 221, you may provide your public comment.
221, you're up.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I am Kari Nebus, and I also live in the neighborhood, the Freedom Homes Canyon Park neighborhood, behind West End. I emailed the city this weekend complaining about noise and parking and safety, and so I'm just here to repeat that request and add to it a little bit, because as I listen to this meeting and I listen to the comments, I share everybody's concerns about parking. It is absolutely packed. I'm particularly concerned as I see people they're walking on 19th, they walk into the neighborhood, they get into their car, and then drive out onto 19th. So they're using the neighborhood as the parking lot for the bars because the bars don't have a parking lot. And they're doing this even though the areas where I see it, there is a sign saying permit parking for residents only. So they're parking right in front of that sign and then leaving. And there's one time where I was out walking in the evening. It wasn't late. I saw somebody do this, and I asked them if they'd seen the sign, if they saw that it was just for residents. And there was a couple. And the man was so immediately belligerent that I was scared. And so I left. But I don't want to deal with more of that in my neighborhood. That's what I'm concerned about. So that parking issue. And then going on to the next one of the noise. I'm concerned about noise because it's a residential neighborhood. And noise until 11 a.m. that's fine. That's just part of life. But noise until 2 a.m. is new, and it's a problem. I want to be able to live in my house and sleep at night with my windows open and not have to listen to somebody's music. That's really my concern. I'm concerned about noise and the fact that looking at the agenda report and looking at the application, I can't see anything that suggests it actually can be mitigated or that it actually will be mitigated. And I share the concerns with some of the other commenters about the city relying on this applicant to mitigate noise or to deal with parking with no clear plan in place yet, and just a hope that they'll go forward doing something that they hope they can do. So I'm here to say, I request that you guys deny the application. If you can't do that, then please do your best to make sure that any mitigation required is set now and is enforceable and is actually enforced. So with that, I say thanks very much for your time.
Thank you for calling in.
There are no more call-in users.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. Anna, thank you for teeing it up for us. We'll go ahead and close the public comment portion of the public hearing and ask my colleagues if you have any further questions for the applicant. So if you'd come down, Mr. Hertzke, just for a sec. Just in the event that my fellow commissioners have any questions. Anyone? Mr. Hertzke, would you like to make any closing comments on basically anything that you've heard this evening or things that may not have been discussed this evening?
Yeah, say 90% of that doesn't really have to do with my business, because like I said, I can only talk about my business and we're here for my business. The other businesses, there is a lot of music going on. I don't know if they have the proper, licensing for that. But once again, we're here for my business, not the other businesses. So I think one of the complaints was there's the wine bar, there's every Thursday night. That's not my business. I don't have a live jazz band every Thursday night. I have a parking lot that we have to use if we need to. It sounds like the city passed a no parking for outside ordinance. Is that?
It's a state level AB 2097.
Right, yeah.
But it only applies with certain provisions.
For my business, we're trying to help the community in providing parking. So at least we're doing what we can, We're a small business as well. And yeah.
Okay. What was I going to ask?
I can jump in.
Huh?
I can jump in.
Yeah, go for it.
You currently have live music?
Live music, no.
Okay. Yeah, that's it.
Was that okay? That was okay. I'm trying to think of a couple questions here, Mr. Hertzke. Yeah, Commissioner Andrade, go for it.
That out. So there are conversations about that additional parking that is
Right.
available to your.
Yeah.
Is there an opportunity with whomever you're working with to have access to that industrial parking lot to kind of create a direct
Yes.
path?
Yeah, yeah.
So that, right, because it looks like there's a fence.
Yes,
right
that's
now.
actually being talked with them. And someone also on the call said that there's no contract. There is a contract. So
So
yeah.
you will be providing, so people will be able to go through the alleyway and then straight back into this additional parking space that you're
That's
creating.
like a perfect case scenario, 100%. Right now, it is walking around. But we are in talks of
Create
that as
direct
well.
access.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you, Commissioner Andrade. You reminded me what I was going to ask.
And someone else, real quick, someone else did say that, one of the callers said that a lot of patrons do drive and park across the street. And a lot of our customers, once again, our business, a lot of people do ride their bikes and walk. A lot of them.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. I think we heard the term bologna sandwich during the call-in.
Right.
In what ways do you encourage or can you evidence telling your patrons to park in a certain area?
Kaylee actually was just telling me that she does post stories on social media about that. Those stories only last for 24 hours, But, we can make signs, if that helps. We can do what we can to, get that out there.
Okay.
Discounts, walking, if you walk, whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
Once again, we're here for the community. And, also a lot of the comments were being open till 2 a.m. We don't plan on doing music till 2 a.m. You know what I mean? We just want to we want to be able to serve till 2 a.m. inside if we want to, We want to be able to serve food as long as possible if we can. There's nowhere in Costa Mesa besides Norm's, In-N-Out, Del Taco.
Raising Cane's.
But that's far. That's far.
Yeah.
Right? at least for the area, you know? So once again, we're here for the community and we want to work with the community. It's, you know, give and take, and, you know, I'm here to work through it, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Commissioners, any further questions for the applicant? All right, seeing none. Mr. Hertzke, thank you very much. You're welcome to take a seat. Thank you. We'll move on to questions for staff. I'll go ahead and start us off if that's okay with everyone. I think I have about 3 or 3.5 questions, depending on how you look at it. So Mr. Arias or Mr. Rodriguez, Director Dropkin, if you want to jump in. What is staff's position on any of the parking concerns for businesses across 19th Street, and how in this particular application have we tried to mitigate that? If you could, just for public discussion, if you want to jump into the conditions of approval or any other supporting evidence for parking, potential parking issues.
Yeah, and kind of also probably to preface this, the existing use, if there are any concerns of patrons parking across the street directly involved with this business, there isn't any sort of conditional use permit or entitlement approval that our department would be able to rely on for enforcement. So if this is approved or becomes effective, then we do have that condition of approval as an enforcement mechanism. Specifically, that condition of approval number 15 references any unauthorized off-site parking that if it is occurring, that is not allowed.
At which point zoning administrator would be able to enforce that, correct?
Our code enforcement would be
Okay,
able
and
to.
code enforcement.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Arias. Second question. There was, I don't want to spotlight all this, but just for the sake of conversation, are there any outstanding violations with this particular business site, as was kind of in a roundabout way discussed by a couple folks that called in?
Not from our department, no.
Okay. From any other departments engaged in the city?
Not that has been brought to my attention.
Okay. Okay. For public discussion, just so I don't have to thumb through it, Mr. Arias, and because you've been walking through this, you know, this item for a while. Conditions of approval for the parking lot. Can we confirm that there is an agreement in place to secure those 17 spots within the vicinity?
So we can follow up to ensure that there is. I know there was discussion previously on other aspects of off-site agreement. The specifics, I believe they've changed from the last I was aware of what like parking areas were being discussed with the adjacent property owner.
Thank you. And just the follow up to that, the conditional use permit, does it rely on the property owner continuing to maintain that parking lot agreement as a condition for this CUP, for maintaining this conditional use permit?
I don't
such that if they have the 17 spaces currently, they get the conditional use permit, and then all of a sudden they drop those spaces at a later date, would it then also automatically revoke their conditional use permit in the event that they lose those parking spots?
No. I guess if they were to continue parking on that site and there was no agreement, then that would be in conflict with that condition of approval because it would be at that point unauthorized off-site parking. But there is no requirement to replace that parking.
Okay, so if they lose that parking or parking that is in a similar amount of off-site parking, that would not automatically revoke their conditional use permit?
No, and I think in this case, it might be more beneficial for the applicant to secure other parking if they lose that parking.
Yeah. Okay. Colleagues, do you have any questions for staff? I'm going to give the vice chair a minute.
Close the public hearing. You close the public hearing.
No, it's still open.
Well, yeah, no, I'll wait. Thank you, sorry.
Okay. All right, thanks, Vice Chair. Thank you, staff. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And now we'll bring it back up to the dais to talk amongst ourselves. I think there may be an opportunity just to discuss this a little bit more. So, Vice Chair, if you want to kick us off.
All right, sure. I was going to ask, one of the ideas that's being tossed about is just the business owner's responsibility to kind of convey to the patrons, people live around here, keep it down, please don't park in front of their homes, don't park at other businesses. I feel like we have boilerplate language in some conditions of approval for past projects. Is there something that we could plug in? Do you have an idea of how that might be outlined, or is that too intrusive or too subjective?
Commissioner Toller, could you repeat the question just for me? Because there are conditions that are boilerplated, and I just want to make sure that we're not skipping over ones that we already have.
Talking about specifically communication to their patrons, signage, for example, about parking and noise concerns, asking them to be respectful to the neighborhood.
Yeah, of course, we certainly have those.
So literally requiring that a sign go up, you know?
We do. We've done that with some of the cannabis applications, obviously, and then we've done it on some of the other applications as well.
Okay. And just so I guess for everybody's sake, because there's like 5 things we're looking at simultaneously. They could be open till 2 a.m. and serve food by right? What they need an entitlement for is to be able to serve alcohol past 11 and to be able to have live music past 11. Is that specifically those 2 things? But they could serve alcohol and have live music until 11 without any of this.
Correct.
Okay. Well, since I have the mic, I'll just throw my thoughts on the table and pass it on real quick. But there's 2 things really. There's technically 5 things we're looking at, but it's really about parking and it's about noise. And I am a little more concerned about the noise and those sorts of nuisances than parking. Regarding the noise, this seems like the sort of project where we might have like a 6-month review, give them something. They're asking for Monday, every day of the week until 2 a.m. and having hard liquor and live music. So part of me is feeling maybe there should be a condition where we give them some of that and then come back after 6 months to review. So I'll just throw that on the table and let somebody else take the floor.
Okay. I'd jump in real quick and share that sentiment, Vice Chair. Just to reiterate what you've already said, it does come down to the potential noise impact and parking for the site. It seems as though when considering the conditions of approval that are baked into this conditional use permit, there's enough power that we retain to enforce this conditional use permit such that if there is an issue that comes up, we are able to enforce it. I am also generally supportive of the idea of doing a 6-month review to see how this pans out once enacted. So I think that was an astute comment, Vice Chair. I'll go ahead and punt it over to anyone else that wants to jump in. Commissioner Zick.
I've never seen us pull a CUP. It's possible. I've never seen that happen. The question I have for Vice Chair would be this, and it's a genuine question, not an argumentative question. If there was a 6-month review, if this was approved with a condition that there be a 6-month review, and we were here 6 months from now and heard these property owners, these business owners, voice the complaints that we heard tonight. If 6 months from now we had these letters from people in the neighborhood with the same complaints, would you feel like, oh, well, that's evidence now that we should deny and pull the CUP? Or would you hear all that stuff and go, I've heard all that before, I'm not convinced?
So like I said, I'm more sympathetic to the concerns over noise. I don't feel that the parking concerns, and I'll flesh this out later, but that is something, this is economic activity on 19th Street, on a people place where people want to be. This is a local business serving locals. It's a neighborhood amenity. And to say people are parking on different properties, people are crossing the street, therefore, the solution of the government is to restrict a certain business, or to say everybody else can operate, but you can't expand. I don't feel like that's a wise approach. I understand the sentiment. I agree that it's a problem. It's a problem we're thinking about. But to be more specific, Commissioner Zick, my thought was for the service of alcohol after 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday only for the first 6 months. And they don't do live music, so until 11. So hold off on that, see how that goes. So my 6-month review, I would be thinking more about the noise issue, and then parking. I think there are other solutions.
I think you bring up a good point about this idea, or your sensitivity to the idea of the government intruding in a way that maybe prevents somebody from running a business. And in some respects, you'd be right, because the business owners do have a way to protect their property rights. If you don't care about them, that's okay. They can care about them, and they can tow every vehicle that is unauthorized on their property. So you don't care, we don't care, they care, but they've got a way to deal with it. The residents that hear noise, and the residents that have the patrons parking in front of their houses, they got property rights too. And if we don't interject to protect their property rights, what's their mechanism to protect their property rights?
Well, first I'll say the street is public space and not their property. But also I'd say that's why we came up with the residential parking permit program, because like we saw in the last item, parking gets tight. We're a city. People.
The sound, the music.
Oh, well, no. Okay, regarding the parking, that's what I said. Regarding the noise, yeah, what about their property rights? So I agree with you. Amplified sound is fun when you're there, but it's not fair when it's carrying across to, as you call your castle. Totally legitimate concern. I've seen over the last few years a certain resident that had a noise complaint, and I saw the city go way above and beyond in getting to the bottom of that. And so I believe we have conditions of approval. We have a professional musician that works with this stuff that we may or may not trust, but I'm trusting. I'm trusting our code enforcement team and our planning staff, but also holding back on that full approval until we see until 11 p.m. goes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you both for that back and forth. That was intriguing. Anyone else? No, I mean that sincerely. I really do. Anyone else? No? Okay.
Well, geez, do we need somebody else? Do we need more commentary on parking? I guess I could fill the. Do we?
Yeah, the next up is the motion, so get it all in now.
So let's see. Nobody after a night of drinking should be getting into a driver's seat at 2 a.m. So that resolves like a lot of the complaints. Like I want to take these seriously. The parking's around the corner in an industrial district. It's going to be scary to walk back to your car. You shouldn't be walking back to your car. That's not something that we're going to resolve. Make it so that people drinking can get safely back to their cars. People are jaywalking. Okay, that's a problem. It's a city street. People have walked in streets for millennia. This is a 2-lane road on 19th Street. This is a commercial area. Does anybody know how far away the crosswalks are? They're it's a quarter mile between Placentia and Federal. That means a quarter mile is a 5-minute walk. So not counting the waiting time at the light, That's 5 minutes to get across 2 lanes. Of course people are going to jaywalk. So I agree, that's a problem. Sure, it's a problem. When you're driving, you don't want people, right? What's the solution? I'd say the solution is something resembling a crosswalk, not restricting a business from opening up and operating, right? Commissioner Zick talked about, yeah, you could tow if it's in front of somebody's house. Yes, valid, legitimate concern, but the city's come up with solutions for that. We have a residential parking program. And generally, I just think it'd be a bad precedent in general to say there's not enough parking here. People want to get here. They don't want to pay for valet. We'd be signaling that we prioritize driving convenience over business, over economic activity on 19th Street of all places. That's our downtown. So I think that'd be a dangerous precedent. And so I said what I think for those conditions, and that's it. So I'm ready for the motion.
All right. Thank you, Vice Chair Toller. Yeah, Commissioner Zick, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I've heard this before, and I agree with, I think, what the sentiment is about this idea of if you've been drinking all night, you have no business going to a car. Totally agree with that. And the assumption there is that your blood alcohol level is greater than 0.08%. You obviously have no business going to your car. But if you've gone to an establishment for dinner, had a glass of wine, if you're making the judgment that person has no business going back to their car, that's fair that you can make that judgment. If their blood alcohol level is below 0.8%, they have a legal right. You might not agree with it, you may not like it. So there's a difference between this idea of an establishment serves alcohol, therefore, what do they need parking for? I think that's a leap. I understand maybe your underlying point, but I think the generalization is a leap that I can't make.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's valid. Just to summarize and clarify, all we do up here is ask the question, what should the government role in this private business be? That's what we do, right? And the approach that we need to make driving easy and convenient. Okay, fair enough. Not when it's a drinking establishment. That's when we need to step back and say, what are we even doing?
All right. Anything else? Let's make a motion, shall we? The floor is open for a motion. I have some ideas, but I don't want to take anyone's thunder.
All right, I'll go for it. I move to adopt a resolution to find that the project is categorically exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act per CEQA Guidelines Section 15303, new construction and conversion of small structures, and uphold the zoning administrator conditional approval of minor conditional use permit and outdoor dining permit at 814 West 19th Street by adopting the attached resolution, and also adding additional conditions of approval to have a 6-month review of the project.
I'll second for discussion, and also with the question before you discuss further, Commissioner Martinez, would you be amenable to any kind of limitation on the late hours of allowing alcohol to last until 2 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays only as a start, in addition to what you suggested with the 6-month review? Would you be amenable to that?
11 to 2 on Fridays and Saturdays?
Yeah, it would go until 2 a.m. Fridays and Saturdays.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be happy to second that motion then if you'd like to speak to your motion.
Yes. So first, I'll begin with parking. We got parking into each of our items today. How wonderful. So yeah, AB 2097 does not, I still don't think that it allows us to even consider minimum parking requirements in this area, be it removing parking, whatever it is. So I think that any consideration of parking based on the multitude of OCTA routes in the area, we shouldn't, this shouldn't be a part of this hearing. For noise, that is where that is where my bigger concern is. So I'm happy that condition of approval 11 exists, and I will look forward in 6 months to hearing what issues, if any, there are on the Fridays and Saturdays that this trial period for 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Live entertainment and alcohol is allowed. That way we can actually know if there would be any larger complaints with allowing it at any further times. Yeah, those are my comments.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Martinez. Yeah, before I speak to the second, I'll allow Vice Chair Toller to jump in.
Yeah, I don't know if this would be a friendly amendment or need to be a new motion. Staff help if needed, but we talked about Friday and Saturday only for alcohol service until 2, but there is also what we talked about, live music, because currently there's no live music, so allowing live music, but only until 11, and then coming back after 6 months to review that. Because as it is right now, I believe, staff, correct me if I'm wrong, if this is approved as is, they could have live music until 2, 7 days a week.
Correct, yeah, unless you wanted to add that restriction to the
Okay,
list.
so I would want to add that to the motion, if it's okay with the maker, that live music is allowed, but only, and it's by right? We would just, that would be, okay, just technically, how would this work in a 6 months review if we wanted to push that past 11? Would this entitlement already cover that? Could it be written such that they wouldn't have to come back and start over? Do you know what I mean? Can we say till 11:01 and then just to get the foot in the door?
In the past, the way that conditions of approval have existed with some type of period review, sometimes it would speak to if complaints are received, and if not, then allow more of in this situation, a later hours, more entertainment during those later hours, alcohol during subsequent days. We could certainly craft a condition to look like that.
What I'm trying to get is, so live music would be allowed till 11, and then in 6 months when they come back for a review, if they want, if everything's fine, no complaints, then talk about Fridays and Saturdays and so on.
At that point, the commissioners could review anything from that
Yeah,
perspective.
but without them having to apply for a new entitlement, because technically they don't need an entitlement for that, right?
They don't need an entitlement until 11 p.m.
Yeah.
for certain aspects of what they're requesting. Obviously, they have it right now, except for the entertainment, but the alcohol they do.
Yeah, so I'm separating those out.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, alcohol service would be allowed until 2, only on Fridays and Saturdays, and live music would only be allowed until 11, whatever day of the week.
Would you be okay with live entertainment and alcohol Fridays and Saturdays until 2? Because then if we come back later, if we come back in 6 months and we're like, okay, we actually do want to allow live entertainment up to 2 a.m. because reasons, right? We have no basis from the 11 to 2 a.m. period. I feel like we're just going to be back again with like, oh, let's come back in 6 months from 11 to 2. So what if we just allow that now? So condition of approval 11 would read, live entertainment shall be permitted at 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. And then in 6 months, we come back with data, with any complaints, if any, and we say, okay, never mind, not good, or we keep it because we haven't received any complaints.
Yeah, that's cleaner. So Friday and Saturday, music, alcohol till 2. Everything else is going to be provisionary until 11 only. And I don't know if 6 months is the right number. Maybe staff has a different, I don't know.
No, staff is comfortable with 6 months from the date of operation.
Okay. And does the maker, do we want to talk about the signage about notifying the patrons to keep it down and not park in other people's businesses or the neighborhoods?
We can talk about it. Do we want to make that a requirement? Again, just to add,
Just put up a sign.
put up a sign.
Yeah.
That should be
Do
fine.
we think, just,
Can you, if it's part of a friendly amendment, Vice
Yeah.
Chair, if we could just have you state it for consideration, what would exactly the signage be?
well, that's why I was asking staff if there's some boilerplate language that we could put in there that requires, and this is to throw a bone to the neighbors, everybody that called in, the people that wrote in, the businesses across the street. A sign up there that says, please don't park in other people's lots. Please don't park in the neighborhood. Please keep your voices down. There's residents nearby. Something like that posted. I don't know if everybody else is not in favor of this, that's fine, but I'm just throwing that out there. That's up to the maker in the second. I'll leave it at that.
If we don't have if we don't have boilerplate at the moment, would you consider throwing it in as a recommendation to staff to look into as part of this?
Take what I can, yeah.
Okay. To the maker of the motion, would you further amend your motion to include recommending that staff look into signage that would encourage that, aforementioned statement that the vice chair made?
Staff or the applicant?
Have staff
Staff work with the applicant?
giving staff the ability to have that be a part of the suite of recommendations.
Yes.
Okay, I'll second that as well. I think it's, did you finish discussing your motion, Commissioner Martinez?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll go ahead and jump in as the second on this motion and saying that I think from what we're trying to craft here, I hope it's evident to the public that we're trying to mitigate some of the potential effects of what's being considered here, be it parking, be it noise, and then putting additional conditions of approval on the applicant such that our staff can enforce things when it actually goes, or not that it will go awry, but if anything goes awry, we're able to step in and to control it. So that's essentially what we've baked here, is something that takes into account the possible externalities of what's being considered here. I think also bringing it back for 6 months, in 6 months after approval, with the data, taking it all the way to 2 a.m. just for those 2 nights a week, Friday, Saturday, gives us a benchmark to see if anything has gone wrong. And then if nothing's gone wrong, then we can take it step by step a little bit more. But we're at least starting conservatively at the beginning with the understanding that, yeah, I think, I won't speak for everyone, but I think people generally want to see local businesses succeed. We want to see entrepreneurialism here. We want to give people the ability to make money and to give people an experience that reflects the value of being the city of the arts, the city of, entertainment, really. I think that that's generally a good thing because that's in our name. It's not pedal to the metal. It's not let's do everything for everyone all the time, but that we actually proceed cautiously with things. And I have every bit of confidence that we are proceeding cautiously in this regard, while also giving our local businesses that opportunity that they desire. So those are my thoughts. Would anyone else like to speak? Commissioner Zick.
So hope is not a strategy, but apparently that's all I'm going to be left with here tonight, because I can count. And that's all you will be left with tonight, is to hope that the problems you're concerned about, the problems you're experiencing, go away. And maybe they will, because sometimes hope works out that way. You know, there's this sentiment, and I keep hearing it, that says we shouldn't be designing around cars. Just that statement I can agree with. We shouldn't be designing around cars. But what we should be paying attention to are people's property rights. And our job is managing competing property rights. And just because the business wants to expand and doesn't have the capacity on their land to do that, the impacts that they create on other people, just because they're paying taxes, just because they're bringing in revenue, that doesn't set aside the interests of competing property rights. Of course, I'm outvoted on that. You'll see that in a minute. There's a residential permit parking program. You've heard that, well, you know, people, it's a public street. People can park in front of houses, your house, my house, they can do that. It's a public street. Okay, that's a true statement, but the city has a resident permit program. How come? Why can some residents band together, petition the city, and get in place a program that says only people in this area can park in front of our houses? It's a public street. Why would the city go along with that? What's the underlying philosophy behind making sure that the people that park in front of your house are people that should be in that neighborhood and not people from an apartment complex down the street, an underparked business down the street? Why is that? Because we recognize that there is value in people being able to park in front of their house if they want, or to not have cars in front of their house if they don't want. There's value in that. And for us to dismiss it by saying, hey, it's public streets. If that restaurant doesn't have enough parking, well, just go park in the neighborhoods. No big deal. Sorry, I don't accept that. I think it's a big deal. There's an interesting concept along the lines of hope here that these 17 parking spaces are going to be utilized. How? People are going to go down to the street around Pizza Hut, walk up this? No, we're going to cut a path through the back of the property. And I'm not sure how many people that think that's a good idea have actually looked at an aerial photo to see what that path actually looks like to get to those 17 stalls. I'm sorry, I don't see that path. There's a lot of hope in here, and I hope it all pans out for your sake. Okay, that's it. I won't be supporting this motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Zick. Yeah, Commissioner Klepek.
I 100% agree with Commissioner Zick. I will also not be supporting the motion. It's a combination of factors. Looking at the findings, I think that it is materially detrimental to properties within the area. And it's detrimental to health and safety. There's also been comments about COVID restrictions, which were tied to health and safety, that were not abided by. The applicant's not engaged in the community. He's been gone for the last 1.5 to 2 years, and his girlfriend runs it. So I just don't feel that, I'm not convinced that this site that is already problematic, I feel like this application exacerbates it, and the noise is my biggest concern. Having outdoor music that close to residential, there's no way I could support that.
Thank you, Commissioner Klepek. Commissioner Andrade, you want to jump in? Yeah. Vice Chair? You've already, yeah? Okay. All right. There's nothing left to be said. Let's go ahead and call the question.
That motion carries 4-2 with Commissioner Zick and Commissioner Klepek voting no.
All right. Thank you, Anna. That decision is final unless appealed to the City Council within 7 days. Thank you.
Erith?
Yes, sir.
There's one house cleaning item I'd like to
after the fact, add to the motion. In the staff report, the resolution conditions of approval, there is a condition of approval that needs to be moved from one section to another. I want to make sure that happens and the city and the commission is aware of it.
Okay.
There's a commission under code requirements at staff report page 11, and that is page 9.
Page 11 of 13 from May 28th, 2024.
Sorry, Director Drapkin and I were just discussing it.
Okay.
So on page 9, there's a condition for the indemnification and to hold the city harmless. And it's under planning conditions number 8. That's when you're talking.
It's under code requirements number 8. It needs to go to.
Okay.
Move to condition of approval. Should move to number 16.
And I'll make sure that happens.
Okay. Do we need to augment any part of this motion, Director?
That is my suggestion.
That we do?
Yes.
Okay. Have you found it, Vice Chair? I'm a little bit. Page 8.
So it's page 9.
Page 9.
Code requirement number 8 should be condition of approval number 16.
Absolutely correct.
And that's all it is?
Yes.
Okay, so by, legally, Robert's rules, can I move to amend the previously adopted motion? Can I move to amend the conditions of approval?
You're moving to amend to correct a clerical error, as stated.
I move to
Make a
correct
motion.
that clerical error to change code requirement number 8 to condition of approval number 16.
Right, second.
All in favor?
Would that satisfy the city, Mr. Tarquin?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Or Mr. Preziosi?
Correct.
It's a little late now. All right, Anna, if we could call the question, please. Can we reset it for that clarification? Thank you. All right, thank you.
That motion carries 5-1 with Commissioner Zick voting no.
All right, so that decision is final
Clarification
unless
on the
appealed
vote
to the
count?
city council within 7
Excuse
days.
me, clarification on the vote count? Just want to make sure,
5-1.
did Karen, you change your vote? Thank you, just paying attention.
4-2. That decision is final unless appealed to city council within 7 days. Okay.
That motion carries 4-2.
It certainly does. That motion, that decision is final unless appealed to city council within 7 days. Thank you and good luck. I see there is no old business or new business, which brings us to public services report. Mr. Yang.
Yes, Mr. Chair, no public works reports.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair.
Thank you. Development Services, Director Gopkin.
Nothing tonight, Chair.
City Attorney, Mr. Preziosi.
I had a brief report, but it is not time sensitive. Given the lateness of the hour, I will defer it to the next Planning Commission meeting.
Okay, thank you. We'll now adjourn the meeting. Thank you for joining us.